Hello, everyone, and welcome to Uncivil Law, where, as always, we learn through the misfortunes of others. I'm your host, Uncivil Law, a licensed attorney in Texas, Virginia, and before the U.S. Supreme Court. As always, I hope you're having a great day. For today's coverage, we continue our coverage of the trial of Jennifer Crumbley. Jennifer Crumbley is the mother of Ethan Crumbley. Ethan Crumbley was a school shooter at Oxford High School. He went into Oxford High School with a Sig Sauer handgun and shot and killed multiple people and injured others. He, of course, has been convicted. He pled guilty to the charges, and he was sentenced to multiple sentences of life without the possibility of parole. Ethan Crumbley, for his part, is currently appealing his sentence, looking for the possibility of parole. So that is still somewhat ongoing as it relates to that. With respect to Jennifer Crumbley and also James Crumbley. Jennifer Crumbley and James Crumbley are the parents of Ethan Crumbley. They are both being charged with involuntary manslaughter. They are being tried separately. So this is the trial of Jennifer Crumbley, the trial of James Crumbley to come at a later time. Jennifer Crumbley is being charged with involuntary manslaughter. Essentially, she's being charged with reckless conduct that led to the death of another, namely the children. But of course, the nature of it is a little bit weird because there is a disconnect. Normally, when you're thinking about this, you're thinking about your own reckless conduct that causes death in a direct way due to your own actions. But Ethan Crumbley, of course, was charged and tried as an adult. And normally, the intentional acts of another are seen as a legal intervening cause of action. So it breaks the chain of causation because people have free will. So normally, the actions of another would break the chain of causation, but not so much in this case, apparently, at least according to the Court of Appeals, which has already heard part of this on appeal already and allowed this case to go forward in a somewhat questionable decision, both on its own merits and also, perhaps even more importantly, as it would apply outside the confines of this case and would apply to other cases. Because, of course, in our common law system, cases don't stand alone. They build on each other. That's the nature of common law. So regardless of how this case turns out, I suppose, in some ways, it will speak to the set of cases. And particularly if they are found guilty, one would imagine that other prosecutors, both in this state and perhaps beyond, would look to this precedent, although strictly speaking not a precedent in that sense, but they'll look to it as an idea for future prosecutions they might bring, both as it relates to homicides and perhaps other charges. And of course, it gets even more interesting because with respect to parents in particular, parents do have an affirmative duty with respect to their children. So normally, the failure to do something could not be seen as a legal wrong. Typically speaking, if I'm just a guy running around in the world and I see a child in distress, I'm not required to do anything in particular. There are a lot of children in distress in this world. Of course, I don't have a duty to them all. And just because the child happens to be in my immediate periphery doesn't somehow change that. You know, out of sight, out of mind shouldn't really be a thing here. We should have a consistent standard, and we do. So regardless of what I see, if I'm just a random guy, I can just walk by, even if the child is in immediate distress, even if the child is about to pass away, and I could save them. But if I choose not to act, I can't be held legally responsible. And so with a parent, however, that's not true. Parents do have affirmative duty to their children. They have an affirmative duty to clothe them and take care of them and feed them and otherwise keep them safe. So although in this particular case, Jennifer Crumbley is being held or being tried to be held responsible with respect to things that she and her husband allegedly did, namely buying the child a firearm, teaching them how to use the firearm, and so forth and so on. Because parents have this affirmative duty, it's arguably possible that a parent in some other case could be held responsible for involuntary manslaughter or some other crime for failure to act. So at least hypothetically possible, you could have the situation in which a parent is aware of their child's actions, not that they themselves are participating in them, but just generally aware. So Their child might be a drug dealer, or their child might be a gang member, or the child has firearms not provided by them, the parents, but they know they have them. So in those situations, would those parents be held responsible because they knew about these situations and failed to intervene? These are some of the questions that sort of plague the mind of the legal thinker as we sort of think about how this case would be applied in other cases. So that is some of the problems we have. Also, it's also notable here that that this case has been allowed to go forward and it's being held separately. So far in the case, we've heard evidence from the prosecutor establishing the crime of homicide. This is, after all, a homicide trial, involuntary manslaughter being a kind of homicide. So we've heard from witnesses from various police forces who were there the day of. We've heard from teacher and a principal or assistant principal who were there the day of. We've heard from law enforcement. We also heard from the gun dealer that sold the firearm to establish some of the things. We've seen video relating to the training of Ethan by going to a gun range with their mother. We've seen Ethan actually have more familiarity and command of the gun than the mother did. And we've also seen the parents and some of their text messages relating to each other in the run-up to and during the school shooting and in the aftermath of the school shooting, which arguably showed more concern for their horses than for Ethan. But that's one way of characterizing it. So that's sort of where we're sitting in a preview. So hopefully all that introduction made sense. We got it down to a nice 6 minutes of introduction. Not bad. It's a lot to unpack. It's a lot to unpack when you actually want to go into when you want to do sort of a detailed introduction. I mean, you could obviously do it faster, but to present the information, present the legal issues, 6 minutes isn't bad. Yeah. Francesca. It's early. I apologize. Francesca says, the points you make always give me food for thought. The case is unique in many ways, though. So many factors involving both the parents and school not recognizing serious red flags. I don't necessarily disagree with you, Francesca. But this is one of those reasons that we have this phrase in law that hard facts make bad law. And this is the kind of thing that we're talking about. These are hard facts. These are hard facts. There are a bunch of children who are dead, and the school shooter is been held responsible, but the parents had opportunity and to intervene, and of course, they did supply the firearm. They bought it for Crumbley, the child. They bought it for him. The gun was unsecured. The cable locks were never used. The safe was set to its default. He had ability to access the guns, and so forth and so on. So yes, there are a lot of facts and red flags here that are problematic at best. But of course, in the common law system, you have to think about what happens when those flags are less red. What happens when it's more tangential? Where does this stop? This case is exceptional. I think we can all agree to that. This case is exceptional. But trying to create a rule that deals with the exception without speaking to the broader set of cases is really, really hard. And yeah. So, I don't necessarily disagree with you that on a moral level, you could say that these parents should be held responsible and they deserve what's coming to them. But of course, the lawyer in me worries about what happens next when the flags are less red, when the situation is less clear. And some prosecutor somewhere in Michigan or otherwise wants to push this a little bit further and a little bit further and a little bit further. Remember, the slippery slope isn't so much a fallacy in law as a prophecy, because that's kind of how common law works. And where does it stop is a reasonable question. Also, incidentally, I don't know the answer to the question because I can't foresee all ends, which is, part of the problem for me. It's like I want to be able to feel reasonably confident that I have this sufficiently well contained before I'm ready to endorse it. And I'm like, I don't know. Pink G555 says the trials determine the parents are liable. Excuse me. Pin King 554. Bowler, Pin King 554. So this trials determine that the parents are liable for Ethan's actions of murder, hence involuntary manslaughter. Basically, that's one way of putting it. Yeah, if the parents do go to jail, I wonder how this will affect future cases. Or a child. Will it cause all parents then to be tried? Presumably, yes. And then beyond its own scope, right? So I would assume that for school shootings, prosecutors will try to bring cases against other parents in other school shootings. And I think it will probably go beyond school shootings if I had to guess. Of course, remember when we're asking these kinds of questions, or remember when I'm asking these kinds of questions. When I'm asking these kinds of questions, I'm not speaking to like what will happen next year or 5 years from now, because common law thinks bigger than that. I'm thinking what's going to happen 50 years from now, 100 years from now, because our common law system has been around for 1,000 years. And so it's like, okay, what happens 10 years from now? What happens 20 years from now? What happens 100 years from now? So, yeah. And obviously that requires a whole lot of foresight to be able to answer that question now, doesn't it? It's like, yeah, when you're just like, okay, what happens 100 years from now when it comes to the law? That's a lot of foresight, which is part of the problem, because I can't see that far into the future. I'm a smart guy, but I have trouble seeing that deep. So it's like, okay, I'm concerned. In the end, of course, my concerns may not prove to pan out. It could be true, of course, that this somehow winds up being a one-off, or otherwise is sufficiently contained that we never have to worry about this ever again. But, yeah. Maybe no prosecutor ever brings a case ever like this for 20 years. Maybe this is the only case of its kind for 20 years. Maybe it takes 20 years till another prosecutor tries again. And then it starts spinning off. So that's the way sometimes things go. Sometimes there's a lull.
Good morning, you may be seated. You may be seated.
Being found guilty precedent would likely just be for parents who provide gun and ammo. You hope.
Thank you, Mark Keaston, Beth people.
Thank you, I'm Shannon Smith on behalf of Jennifer Crumbley.
She's on her way up.
Thank you.
I had it. I probably just brought it.
I know, until you get here.
I just brought it with me onto my desk. Anything? She's on her way up.
So it raises a lot of fun and interesting questions, and we'll really have to see what happens next in sort of the whole thing. Okay, so the defense lawyer going for sort of a pink ensemble today. All right. That's a pretty bold color for a courtroom, I just have to say. I mean, most lawyers dress pretty conservatively in, blues and grays. But she's going full on pink. Okay.
Are there some things you wanted to put on the record before?
Where do you even get a case? I don't even know.
I believe so, Your Honor.
I guess I really haven't been
Off the
looking for
record.
cases, so I shouldn't ask that
To
question.
plan our going forward here. So I think there was a few things we resolved.
How's James charged again? Same
Oh, I know.
theory.
One of the things is
James bought the gun.
Facebook.
That's what I was going to address.
So
But do you
that's
want to
basically-
do that
Yeah, James
outside
bought the
presence
gun,
of the jury?
so
Or,
same idea.
Oh, no, I actually think we should do it in front of the jury. Because
Okay, I
that's
agree.
right.
I agree. I agree.
Counsel needs to wonder her client. I think that should happen outside the presence of the jury.
Right.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Mrs. Crumbley, could you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony about to give is the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And can you tell me your name?
Jennifer Crumbley?
Okay, we just have a few questions for you, okay?
Okay, Mrs. Crumbley, when we were in court on Friday, there was discussion about admitting the Facebook Messenger messages between yourself and James Crumbley.
Correct.
Do you recall that?
Yes.
And on Saturday, I came over to the jail to see you, and that was specifically a topic we discussed.
Yes.
Okay, and at this time, we have talked about how during the trial, there was talk about redacting portions of that Facebook Messenger thread pursuant to other orders, correct? And the court offered me the opportunity to redact portions of that record.
Correct.
And after you and I discussed it, it's fair to say that you and I believe that it would look like we are hiding evidence from the jury if they saw a redacted version of Exhibit 423.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, wait till I finish speaking before you start. Okay, so at this time, I have let the court know that we are not moving for any redactions and that Exhibit 423 will be admitted, showing your entire phone conversation with James on Facebook Messenger. And Your Honor, there's specific dates it's from, so I think I should put the dates on the record.
It might be on the...
Yeah, I'll just grab it. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have the exhibit. It wasn't with the initial folder I had. Do you know the dates?
I think this is relating to privilege.
Okay, so there are the...
I'd guess.
Early 2021.
It's the entire Facebook Messenger thread between you and Mr. Crumbley starting in January of 2021, and it goes up through the events that lead us here today.
Correct.
Okay, is it your decision to allow those Facebook messages to be admitted in the court without redaction?
Yes.
And you and I have talked about the pros and cons of redacting those exhibits.
Correct.
And at this time, you understand they will be admitted without any redactions.
I do.
And just a few.
Sure.
Mrs. Crumley, you understand that Exhibit 423 won't just be given to the jury, but the prosecution can go through that with either you on a cross-examination or with other witnesses.
Correct.
And you've consulted with your attorney specifically about that point?
Yes.
And it is your decision as a defendant of the case in consultation with your attorney as part of trial strategy to admit this entire exhibit?
Yes.
And to be clear, this is the Facebook message thread between Jennifer and James Crumley beginning January 1, 2021. And it's over 2,000 pages long.
Exhibit 423.
And Mrs. Crumley, you understand that throughout the pendency of this case, your attorney on your behalf has sought to exclude certain themes or topics of evidence, in some cases successfully, yet this Facebook conversation does touch upon some of those.
I understand.
And you still want 423 to be admitted into evidence and referenced by the prosecution and defense.
Yes.
I'm satisfied.
All right, anything else that has to be out of the presence of the jury at the moment? We're dealing with your other, we're going to deal with your other issue that you brought up about the snow.
So,
About the,
oh, yes, okay.
but we'll get back to you. Okay.
Okay.
What else? All right, we're going to bring the jury in, okay?
Thank you, Judge.
All right, so I think what happened, although it was a little unclear from the discussion, but they're talking about this entire Facebook comment thread. So they just have an ongoing discussion between each other, as you know, one does with their partner, that goes back several months before the incident. And so I would imagine, although I don't know for sure, I would imagine that some of it might have been protected by marital privilege. And so I guess that's what was happening, because we need the client to waive the privilege to admit it all. So I think that's what happened. So best guess.
All rise for the jury.
Good morning, you may be seated. Thank you again for being timely. We weren't ignoring you, we were just sort of paving the way. So every day requires some certain preparation, so we appreciate you. Who's the next witness?
Ms. Kira.
No, it doesn't mean
Your
it
Honor,
can
I'm
be
sorry,
used in Dad's
before-
case too. To
may
the
I please
extent
address
that
the court?
it relies on privilege issues,
Your Honor,
he would have his
on,
own privilege.
Friday,
So it does
I
not
think it was
mean it
very
can be used
clear
in
beyond
Dad's
reasonable
case.
doubt. I have difficulty and cannot use technology. In my frustration, I made a comment that was offensive to victims' families, and I did it absolutely by accident as I was struggling with my computer. I am apologizing for that comment. I want to apologize to the jurors, to the audience, to all involved, and specifically to the victims and the families of the victims. I truly did not mean to say the comment I made.
I believe that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So she's apologizing for saying she wanted to kill herself, which was not a great look.
I'm a person to cut them out. Yeah, it's you today.
Yeah, oh man, I want to kill myself. Yeah, that was not a great moment by the defense attorney. So she's like, "Can I please apologize to the jury?" Yeah, yeah, that was not a great idea. Yeah, of course there are separate trials. There are separate trials
Ms.
between
Kira.
parents and different lawyers, different strategy, different legal issues, and yeah, so there's no guarantee that the evidence before the two juries will be the same. In fact, I can almost guarantee it won't be the same.
Could you raise your right hand?
Part of the reason it might,
Do you swear or affirm the testimony?
part of the reason that they might be in separate trials is
Be
because
seated,
they have
and then
different
would you state your
perspectives
name
on
for the
such
record and
issues.
spell your first and last name, please.
My name is Kira Pennock, Kirapennock.
Thank you. Go ahead, prosecutor.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Kira, can you tell the jury how old you are?
I am 27.
Okay. And you actually have a pretty robust career at 27. Can you tell the jury what you do?
I own and run a horse farm. We do boarding and lessons and training
Okay. And how long have you been owning and running the farm?
since May of 21.
Okay. You said for the people in the jury or
Okay. Oh, I just accidentally muted it.
Have them at their house, so they will board them over at my place. So I take care of them. I feed them, I water them, I clean up after them, and then they can come visit their horses whenever they want.
okay. And so the boarding includes feeding and watering the horse. That's all one price.
Yes, it also includes like cleaning up after them, but I mean really just any of the care that they might need for just general living.
Okay. And how much is the cost of boarding one horse?
Board at that time was $400 for pasture board, so if their horse is outside 24/7 with access to a shelter if they wanted to use it.
Okay, $400 per horse.
Yes.
Okay. What's not included in boarding?
Vet bills. So if the vet has to come out and do something with the horse, The farrier, so the person
Again,
that works on the feet.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's basically kind of a pedicure for horse, so that has to happen. every 6 days.
Horses get pedicures?
But
Wow.
and then also lessons too. Lessons are not included, so those are separate.
And how much are lessons?
$35.
And how much for the vet bill, a vet or a farrier?
It really just depends on the horse, and then like what that horse needs. So, you know, a horse needs routine vaccinations each year and just kind of general checkup. But there are other expenses as for like, you know, emergency vet calls. So your horse injured themselves.
Oh, I know
or
horse
is
horse
coliking,
hoof care
and then
can
you
be
have
serious.
to
I've seen some
have
YouTube
an
videos
unscheduled
on
appointment with
horse
the vet.
doctors with
Okay,
some hoofs.
so
I just didn't know they get
An average
pedicures.
appointment, not including any of the services or the medicine or procedures, would be around what?
It really varies, but I would say probably maybe at least $100.
Okay. And the vet comes to the barn.
Yes,
Okay. Do you know someone named Jennifer Crumbley?
I do.
Do you see her in the courtroom today?
I do.
Can you describe something she's wearing for the court?
She has glasses on.
And she's seated over at that table, correct?
Yes.
All right. May the record reflect she's properly identified Jennifer Crumbley.
The record will reflect in court identification of the defendant, Jennifer Crumbley.
Thank you. Do you also know James Crumbley?
I do.
Okay, when did you meet the two of them? At the same time or separate times?
I believe that I had met Jennifer first, and it was probably between 3 and 5 years ago that I had actually met them for the first time, but not actually gotten to know them.
Okay. When you met the two of them, how many horses did they own?
One.
And did you meet them because they wanted to board at your farm?
No, they were boarding their horse at a barn that one of my friends had worked at.
And then at some point, did they change their barn?
Yes.
When was that, if you know?
I do not remember the exact day or year, but they ended up moving to the barn that I had priorly boarded at before I bought my farm.
Okay, when they did board their horses at your farm, correct?
Yes.
All right. When? About what time? Year? Month?
They started boarding their horses, which by then they had bought the second horse. They had started boarding, I believe, in the July time period of 21.
Okay. Who did you know better, James or Jennifer?
Jennifer.
All right. And can you describe Jennifer's general demeanor when you were working with her? And well, back up. What kind of interactions would you have with Jennifer, and what? Just talking about the horse that she was boarding, or was there anything else that you did with Jennifer?
A majority of our conversations were related to the horses and maybe talking about goals for the future, for possibly showing or just training goals in general to figure out the best plan of action for the lessons that I was giving.
So, did you give her lessons?
I did.
Okay. How often would you give her a lesson?
I would say between 2 and 3 times a week.
Okay. And when did that occur?
Usually in the evenings.
So, did Jennifer come to the barn in the evenings during the weekdays, or was it on weekends, or both?
Well, she came in the evenings during the week, usually after work, and then weekends she would come in the morning, afternoon, evening. But
Okay.
I can't say for sure the exact time usually.
And did you say how many times during the week, the work week?
I would say probably at least 2 to 3 times during the week.
And about, on the average, what time would she arrive?
About 4:35-ish.
Okay. And stay about how long, if you know?
Couple hours, so at least maybe 2 to 3 hours.
And was that just getting lessons, or were there other things that she was doing?
Just getting her horse ready for a lesson and doing the lesson, and then cooling the horse down and taking them back out to their pasture. And then just everybody at the barn is pretty friendly. Everybody will talk, so just small conversation.
So the boarding and the feeding is just the basic care. Is there a lot more things you have to do to take care of a horse if you're the owner?
The owner pays the barn where the horse is boarded at to do the general care of the horse, like the day-to-day things such as giving them water and grain and hay and cleaning up after them, and maybe changing blankets and different things to make sure that they stay warm.
So there's a admitted exhibit which includes the Facebook messages between Jennifer and James. Were they both taking care of the horses? And the reason I ask is there seems to be a lot of communication between the two of them about taking care of the horses, so I'm trying to get at what else would they be doing other than just feeding the horse and, you said, cooling it off and taking it. I'm not a horse person, so taking it out to pasture, and does it have to be, do you have to ride your horses? Like what's the responsibility there?
Most likely what they might be talking about is maybe some of the vet care. So I know one of their horses had what's called mud fever. It's kind of a fungus stuff that might grow on the legs of a horse with wet weather. And that usually is something that ends up needing a vet to intervene with just medication to help take care of it. So it might be related to maybe the vet bills. And maybe just vet appointments related to taking care of the horses.
Okay. And you said they own 2 horses. What are their names?
One is named Billy and one is named Shorty.
Okay. What kind of horses were there in terms of value of the horses? There, I know horses can be very expensive to purchase. Where do these horses fall on that continuum?
Well, they were both thoroughbreds, so they raced on the racetrack before they had gotten them. But I do not know how much Shorty was purchased for. I believe that Billy was purchased around like $5,000.
Okay. And how do you know how much Billy was?
She was sending me, or Jennifer was sending me information on him when she was looking for a horse.
Okay. And do you know anything about the circumstances of when she or how she bought that horse?
I know that she was talking about it late at night, and she was also drinking.
Okay. How do the people that board your horses and have lessons, give lessons, how do they pay you?
Your Honor, I need to make an objection. The witness's answer was in part non-responsive, and I'd ask to be struck from the record.
Yeah, it was, I think it was, unless there's follow-up, I think it was somewhat unresponsive.
The Facebook message string that was just admitted details exactly how the horse was purchased, so I'm happy to move on and we'll deal with it then.
I don't know, I haven't read those. So.
The portion I'm objecting to is the unnecessary information about she was drinking at the time.
Okay.
I think it's relevant. I think if you're buying a $5,000 horse while you were drinking late at night is relevant to the case and the relationship that Jennifer Crumbley had in her priorities, and as well as the fact that the Facebook message string that was just stipulated to an admission without redactions, like it absolutely discusses that.
Okay, next question.
Okay. How do people pay? Cash, check, credit card?
It can be any of those. A lot of people now use online payments like Venmo.
Okay. How did the Crumbleys pay you for your services?
Check.
Okay. And did James ever take lessons?
I have given him a few lessons.
So who was taking care of the horse during the day? Did Jennifer ever come during the day, during the week, or was it James, or did they both?
Well, the general care every day was done by the barn, but say if there was a need to have the vet out, we usually like to have the owners present, so they would usually have one of them at whatever vet appointment.
Okay. So you just testified they moved their horses to your barn July of 2021. You knew them approximately a year before that, 2 years?
They had boarded at the barn that I had my horses boarded at prior to buying my farm. I do not recall how much time we had boarded together there, but I had met them a couple years prior to that.
Okay, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
So you've known them a couple years before they came to your barn?
Yes.
Okay. Did you know that if Jennifer had a son?
Yes.
And did you ever meet their son?
I may have met him maybe once or twice.
Where, if you know, where was that? Was it at your barn?
It was not at my barn.
Okay. Did you ever see their son come to your barn?
No, I did not.
So the 2 to 3 times a week and on the weekend when Jennifer would visit, did she bring anybody with her?
Usually James. I don't remember anybody else really coming out and with her.
Okay. Do you allow kids at the barn?
Yes, we do.
And what are the kids that are at the barn usually doing?
Usually doing lessons. You know, some of the kids that are doing lessons, they have siblings that are brought out, so they just kind of maybe occupy their time with the barn cats or seeing the other horses on the property.
Okay. And do you have any family oriented activities or get-togethers?
We've had a family reunion.
Meaning
Before, but-
parties or activities that children are welcome to come to?
Yes, all of the events that we might have at the farm, kids are invited to. Like we've had parties like Halloween party before too.
Okay, around Halloween of 2021, do you remember if you had a Halloween party?
Yes, we did.
Do you know when it was and about what time of day it was?
I do not remember what day it was, but I know that it was afternoon, evening-ish.
Was it on Halloween or before Halloween?
It was before Halloween.
Okay, and it was a weekday or weeknight?
It was on a weekend, I believe.
A Friday or Saturday?
Yes.
Did Jennifer come to that party?
Yes.
And how do you remember that?
I remember that both Jennifer and James had come to the party, and they were dressed up, and like our parties, we include the horses, so people will also dress their horses up for
They put Halloween
party.
costumes on horses?
Yes.
Okay. I did not know that.
Yeah, that's pretty fun.
Okay. And do you know if they dressed their horses up that year?
Not really dressing them up. They wanted to, but they had also said that they had another party to go to after mine.
So you did not see their son that night?
I did not.
Okay. Did Jennifer talk to you about her son?
Not a ton, but every once in a while she would mention something about him.
And do you remember things that she would say?
Usually it was along the lines of she was having problems with him, or he wasn't acting normal. She had called him weird before. She wanted him to do normal kid things.
Okay.
But I never remember her saying anything about really bringing him out to the barn much or really doing much. I mean, they would go on vacations. I did hear about some vacations that they had gone on, but really there was not much talk about her son.
Did she ever refer to him as a certain name? Did she speak negatively about him, or was it or positively?
There was nothing truly positive when she was talking about him. There were quite a few times that she had voiced that he was an oopsie baby.
What does that mean? I'm sorry. What did you understand that too?
I understood it as
Your objection as to speculation and also as to relevance.
Well, I guess I wonder how it is relevant.
I think if you're referring to a teenager still as an oopsie baby, I think it's relevant to what kind of relationship you had with them and what kind of, defense counsel's described her client and opening as hypervigilant. And so I think the prosecution's entitled to.
I really don't think that whether or not your child
I think
is
their
an oopsie
relationship
baby
is relevant.
plan
When you say
really speaks to
your
your
definition of
vigilance
an
as a
oopsie
parent or
baby,
not.
are you using your own definition?
I find that kind of prejudicial, to be honest.
My take on what.
I mean, not to belabor the point, but there are a lot of parents with a lot of oopsie babies
Your Honor,
who really care about their
asking if it's her
children.
opinion. I'm sorry, she's going
She did.
to.
I don't really think. I think that
Your
is
feelings
kind of
about it,
prejudicial.
Are not what's relevant here.
Correct.
But did she ever explain what that meant?
She never truly explained what that had meant.
Okay. How long of a drive is the barn from Oxford, the village of Oxford, if you know?
I would say about 20 minutes.
And I'm willing to bet, although I wouldn't know for sure, but I'm willing to bet that there are a few parents out there with planned
What
children
is the way that you would
who are
communicate
quite
with
neglectful to their children.
Usually through Facebook.
So I'm not sure the one thing has necessarily
Jennifer?
anything
Do
to
you
do
know
with
why
the
that
other.
is that the way you prefer to communicate?
I don't really mind what way to communicate. It seems like Facebook Messenger is how a lot of people communicate nowadays.
Okay. Does the barn have Wi-Fi?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So do you have problems communicating when you're at the barn?
It depends on how good the service wants to be at the barn.
Okay.
Some days it's really good, and then other days there's not great service.
All right. And I would assume most of the people at the barn, that's just people deal with that and they know that.
Yes.
Okay. Would you describe, Jennifer, did you have a friendship or was it more just business?
It was mainly business. We had friendly talk, but I would not say that we were close friends.
When you buy a horse and it doesn't...
Oopsies doesn't necessarily mean unwanted.
It's not near where you are. How do you get it from like a different state to the barn?
Usually you can pay somebody to haul the horse over to the new location for you, or you can go pick it up if you have a trailer.
And do you know what was the second horse's name that was purchased?
Unplanned.
Billy. Do you know how he was
So
brought to the barn?
unplanned doesn't necessarily
He
mean
was
unwanted.
shipped by someone that does a lot of cross-country hauling.
And do you remember
fair
about
enough.
what month
There might
and
be a
year that
difference
was?
in there.
It was in the beginning of the year that she had gotten him, which I do not remember exactly when she had gotten him.
Did she get him before she came to your barn or after?
Before.
Okay. So how did you know what was your relationship like then, before she was at the barn?
Before she was at my barn?
Yes, your relationship.
I would give her some lessons, and it was mainly business. And
Was she asking for advice about which horse to buy or how to buy the horse?
In the context of religious
not a
families who don't
lot,
use
but
birth
just
control.
kind of, just general questions of, what might work
maybe.
for a good horse for what she wanted to do.
Okay, I guess what I'm getting at is how do you know how the horse was shipped?
Because she had told me about, where he was, that he was in a different state, and that she would just have him shipped.
Okay, do you know approximately how much that costs?
I do not. It varies on who you use to haul a horse, and then also just, the cost of, the fuel and mileage, and, everybody kind of has their own fees that they...
More than 500, less than 500?
Most likely more than 500.
Okay. Can you talk to me a little bit about the health concerns or issues with the two horses? Did they need a lot of extra care? Were they given a lot of extra care?
Given extra care by the vet?
By the Crumbleys, by Jennifer?
They would come out and, the mud fever that we were dealing with, and they had put medication on Billy's legs for that. But there were some issues lameness-wise with their newest horse, Billy, that they had still had to have the vet out for to diagnose what the problem was.
Were they on any other medications or supplements?
Supplements, yes. Medications, not that I know of.
What's the cost of supplements for a horse?
Well, it depends on what you want to have your horse on. I know that both Billy and Shorty were on a lot of supplements, and it probably cost over $100, probably close to $200 per month per horse.
All right, I'm going to draw your attention to November 30th, 2021. You remember that day?
Yes.
All right. What was the interaction you had with Jennifer Crumbley the day before that? So that was a Tuesday. Did you see her at the barn on Monday?
I do not remember. I think she was planning on coming out, but I don't remember exactly.
Okay. Did you have any communication with her that previous weekend?
The previous weekend before the 30th?
Yes, after Thanksgiving.
Yes.
And do you remember what that was about?
I remember wanting to set up lessons. I don't remember exactly anything else.
In your Facebook communications, did Jennifer ever mention going to a shooting range that summer or leading up to that fall?
She had mentioned that she was going to, but I don't really remember a lot of that.
Was that in the summer or the fall?
I would believe summer and fall.
Okay. Were you aware that she? Do you follow her on social media?
I do.
Did you see the post that she posted about buying her son a Christmas present?
I did.
All right. Did you discuss it with her?
I did not.
Did you see it before the shooting or after?
I do not remember. I'm on social media, but not very frequent.
Okay. So the morning of November 30th, what was going on with their horses?
Their horse, Billy, needed the medication from the vet to help treat his mud fever because we couldn't fix it with the products that we were trying before, and his legs were swollen.
Okay, what was being done about it?
There was some ointment that was given to them by the vet to put on his legs.
That morning?
I believe they picked it up from the vet to put on the legs, because I remember James wanting to bring the medication out and put it on Billy's legs.
Okay, so did James go to the barn that morning?
Yes, he did.
Okay. And do you know from what time to what time?
It was in the morning, but I don't recall what time.
Okay. And were you having conversations over Facebook Messenger with Jennifer during that time about the barn?
Not really.
Okay. Did you speak with her about this mud fever frequently?
I had mentioned it to her because it's not normal for a horse's legs to swell up like his did. Was just a mild case of this mud fever. So we had to have a little bit more involvement of getting that taken care of by having an ointment made by the vet that took care of it.
Okay. Was Jennifer planning on coming to the barn that night?
Yes.
And do you remember why?
We were going to do a riding lesson.
Did she end up going to that lesson?
She did not.
Okay. There was a text sent, and it was including in what's been previously admitted as Exhibit 130, Your Honor.
130.
Can you read the top text there? And which one is you? Are you blue or black?
I am blue.
Okay, so can you read the text that you sent at, what does it say, 10:18 a.m. on the 30th.
Yes. Boys are needing supplements for tonight, and Shorty lost a bell boot again.
What's a bell boot?
It is it's like a rubber boot that goes over the horse's foot to help prevent. We used it on Shorty for because he would rip his shoes off all the time. He had metal shoes on, and he would pull his shoes off. So if you put a bell boot on, it helps to reduce the chance of them pulling a shoe.
Okay. And you're telling her why?
I was telling her to have her bring out another boot to replace the one that he had torn off.
So it's her responsibility to do that?
Correct.
Okay. And she responds, can you read that text?
Okay, I'll bring some out later. Just had to go to my son's school and meet his counselor. Shit day.
All right, so she responds to you in about 20, 30 minutes.
Yes, it
Okay.
looks like it.
Okay. And then, is this continued on that same message? It's just another message at the same time? Or
Yes.
was it later? Okay, can you read that?
Yeah, I still plan on doing the lesson. Everything's okay. He's just having a hard time after losing Tank, his friend, going away to a treatment facility, and who knows what else. But he was just caught drawing this on a math test or a math assignment today.
All right. And this is the worksheet that's been previously submitted, Your Honor. It's Exhibit 74. Is there
Yeah.
Yeah, we do know the horse's name. One of them was named Shorty. And I forget the other one's name, but she's mentioned it a couple times. But we have Shorty. Hey, Shorty, looking so fine. Shorty, ready, steady, go. Yeah, so Shorty and something else. What was the other one's name?
While he's doing that, you're up. Did Jennifer ever participate in any
Billy?
shows or
Billy and Shorty.
competitions?
Billy and
He
Shorty
did
are
run
the
one
horses'
show
names.
with us
And where was that?
at a farm right down the road.
Okay. Do you know if she ever traveled for competitions or horse shows?
and
Not
Shorty.
to my knowledge outside of when I had taken.
Is that what all the rap songs were talking about? That when they said Shorty?
Coach Renner?
Were they talking about the horse?
This is Exhibit 74.
A lot of rappers really like this horse.
And can you tell
I don't know, ma'am.
the jury what that is?
That is the math test that Jennifer had sent me that morning.
I still want to get a dog with floppy ears, and I will call it Floppy, and we will have
And did
adventure.
you
Maybe
take
when I move to
a close
Houston,
look at
I'll
it when she sent it to you?
I did look at
With
it.
floppy ears.
But I
Probably go to a
did not
rescue or
open it
something,
as
see if I
soon
can
as
find
she
myself
sent
a
it to
dog.
me. I saw it later.
Okay. When?
We can
how,
go on
how much
adventures and
later?
stuff. Could be fun.
I
We can go
believe
for
that it
walks.
was before
It'd be good for my exercise,
the
if nothing
shooting had
else.
occurred. But after the shooting had happened, I had looked at the math test even closer.
Okay. So this is important.
The defendant,
So I wanna
the
make sure
defense
I ask
lawyer
the
said
question
she wanted to
in the
kill
right way.
herself during
You
argument
You know, you took a look at
on
it
Friday.
and you remember
So that was great.
Is there a reason why?
I remembered saying that he had needed horse therapy. and
Okay.
She should bring him out for some horse therapy.
All right. Okay, we're gonna get to that. Can you skip to the next slide? So
Should've
this
looked
is
so
from
far,
who? You or
my
Jen?
mind.
This message was from Jennifer.
Can you read it, please?
As
Is
long
Shorty-
as I
is
can
Shorty
get
a
out
common name
early
for
enough
horses?
Because I had to leave work
I mean,
an hour, and I have a meeting in.
I'm not really familiar with
but I
horses
should
and
be
horse
done
name
with
conventions,
that
but
by
is Shorty
4.
a common name?
And,
Or Billy?
Being
I don't know.
there,
I have no idea what
the
people name
vet said
horses.
it's better for him to move around and keep it circulation going while he's dealing with mud.
Murdoch's going to get a new trial. He should. He should. I look
First
forward to
thing I
watching
wanna
that
point
hearing.
out that you received
Probably going to have to do it on
about the
Saturday
lesson
because we're
was
so busy. I don't
10:58.
have time.
Do you remember?
But he really should get a new trial.
I'm sorry. Yes. 10.
Well, I shouldn't say
Okay.
that.
And so
But
this
the
is all
evidence
part of
looks
the same
pretty solid.
conversation?
Yes.
All right. And then the next text is from you, correct? Can you read that?
Yes. OMG, he needs some horse therapy. I bet he would love Mo. Whatever works for you, just let me know. I only have
Mo apparently
lessons
also is a
tonight
horse.
at 5:30, so any
Billy, Shorty, and Mo.
lesson is fine.
Okay, and her response?
Okay, yeah, well,
Women love dogs.
He'll be coming with me tonight.
There you go.
James is working and he can't be left alone.
Probably get a dog that's like, you know, a year old or something.
Next slide.
Already housebroken. Would be nice.
Does he want to ride?
And she responds,
I don't know. Maybe brush.
It can
so
be on my balcony outside. The weather will be nice. It can be outside,
Sorry.
you know.
oh, sorry, I had the same problem.
No, I was trying to figure
Sorry.
out if there was more to that message there, but it was down. I don't know. Maybe brush a small horse so he's not intimidated.
Put on some kind of matting
She
for his feet,
responds?
maybe on the
I
balcony.
responded, Mo would be perfect. And she responded with, okay.
All right, and the next slide.
Make it a family event coming out to the barn. Really though, I've seen some amazing things done with horses with kids.
And at this point, you testified early, you hadn't ever seen him come to the barn.
Not to my farm, and I vaguely remember maybe seeing him once at the previous farm.
A few years
He
prior.
may very well be convicted in the second
yes.
trial, of course.
Her response,
But if he is
he needs
convicted,
something.
I hope it's for the right reasons.
and you responded,
I also hope the next judge will be a little bit more
I'll read it. It says, let's make him a
restrained on the extraneous evidence relating to
cowboy.
financial
LOL,
stuff.
mountain goals for real.
all right. So that exchange.
And you know, there's no
and
guarantee of
then
conviction the
next
second time around, to be
text
honest.
you get from her Facebook messages at
I still think it's a
2:36
little
p.m.
thin.
that day.
Correct. That
And just a
says
friendly
here,
reminder, by the way, of course, that
What,
the ice cream murder
when did
trials, the
you
first time, was 11-1 not guilty, and then
Hear about
12-0
the
guilty.
shooting.
So
I had actually.
you never know what a jury's gonna do, man.
One of my students' moms had called me in that afternoon and said
I'm also much more a
they
dog
would not
person
be
than a
out
cat
later for
person.
their lesson because of the shooting.
I'm not opposed if
All right,
my
what was your
girlfriend
first
or wife has a cat.
My first thought.
But if she has more than
that
one,
knew who
I don't know,
she
man.
was by the message
Yeah.
that was sent to me.
All right. That's
Yeah.
a heavy thing to think. Talk to me about why that was your first thought.
It's not normal for somebody to draw these things on a test in school or even really think about these things, especially in a school setting, but really ever.
Okay. So did you then go back and take another look at the worksheet?
Yes.
All right. Did you talk to anybody about this at the time?
I still think I absolutely think Ty can win that case.
I
absolutely think Ty can win
I
that
believe
case.
that I knew who the shooter
With the
was,
right
and I
lawyer.
explained why.
Okay. And at some point, your father actually called the tip.
He needs a lawyer.
Yes.
I hope he gets one.
When did you verify that it was in fact her son? Around what time, if you know?
I was thinking about maybe like a mini retriever would be
I
good.
do not remember when I had verified that it was her
I thought that might be good for
Okay, so
me.
let's go back to the
Some
text
sort of
message.
mini
So
retriever.
2:36, and we know
Or mini
the-
golden, I guess I
the
should say.
shooting started at around 12.
Golden doodle, maybe. I don't know, something like that.
So this is this is
That could be good.
almost an hour and a half after the shooting. She texts you what?
Although if
Sure,
I have
I
to
won't
get
be
one,
tonight.
you know,
And
from
you
the
respond.
farm, it's
It's
going to cost me
okay.
a
Want me
fortune.
to work Philly for you?
We'll see.
And she says,
Yes, please.
okay, and talk to me about the next text and the picture.
I'm not
so
getting a
just
pit
brought
bull
him
for
in,
every
and
possible
it's
reason.
a picture
That is
of
right
her.
out.
All right. Did you text her photos or message her photos a lot of the horses?
I would send her pictures as I took them. I tried to.
Miniature
give up
German Shepherd? Yeah,
pictures
there you
of the
go.
horses.
Okay, and the next slide.
Miniature Shepherd? Yeah, that could be good.
This
Corgi?
is at 4:07.
Not for me.
I said, hey, is everything okay? I heard there was a shooting at Oxford High School. Is Ethan okay?
And then at 4:21, you sent another text. Can you read
If
it?
you need anything, please let me know. And then under that, oh no, that's the same
Okay.
message that's up there.
Yeah, force me to get out and walk to
She responds at 4:42 and says what?
I need to sell my horse's stat.
No, I'm not
What did
getting
you
a pit
respond
bull.
to her?
Way too much
I
liability.
responded With, oh no,
Way
this
too
was
much
what I was
liability.
worried
I'm not
about.
doing that.
Okay, can I stop you
So
there?
just
What did you mean? by
Absolutely not happening.
I had the feeling that her son was the shooter, and that with that, the horses would most likely have to be sold.
that? Okay, but it doesn't say that, and you came to that conclusion. Oh no, this is what I was worried about.
If I really wanted to get
because
trouble,
of
I just
some
get myself a wolf
information
dog.
outside of what she actually tested.
Correct.
Okay.
So I'd sooner get a wolf dog than I get a.
You say what about the horses?
I said, if you're serious, I will gladly buy
Yeah,
those.
I doubt my apartment complex would allow a pit bull.
And
Yeah,
then I
exactly.
asked how much, and she said I paid $5,000 for him.
Okay, about an hour and a half later, you respond. Oh no, no, 6:24. You say what?
I had said, do you want $5,000 for him, or do you want more?
In her response,
My head is spinning right now. Is 8 too much?
and she says,
I
You say-
said I would gladly give you 8 if I could afford it. I really only have $5,000 to spend. You could ask Angela if she would buy him for 8. Angela would probably buy him.
okay. Do you buy and sell horses a lot?
I do not.
Okay, have you bought a horse from somebody before?
I have bought horses before.
Okay, is that something that you normally do via check, cashier's check, cash?
It depends on the situation.
Your Honor, I would just object to relevance.
Your Honor, this is part of a lot of evidence we're introducing about going to flight and the need for actual cash.
I'm not allowed it.
Thank you. So at 6:47, she messages you again. What does it say?
I won't have
A
my
mini
cell
horse?
phone.
No, that's
You
okay.
respond.
We'll stick with the
Do
dog.
what you need to do. I will take good care of your boys here.
And the next slide.
I'll probably just
Says
wind up
what?
going to
I
a
can be reached
shelter
through
and
here.
look for one
I
that
do
looks,
not have my cell phone
friendly and
on a track phone.
has nice
And that
ears.
is still the 30th, but it's at 10:21.
I want a dog that does this.
Yes.
All right, and can you read what you responded?
That has, floppy. That's what I want.
Do you need me to do anything for you? I'm not sure.
And also that the ladies will like.
Good.
Friendly, and so the ladies will like him. That's obviously key.
We have a clean copy. I'm trying to find a paper copy that doesn't have that
We are not getting a pit bull.
so
Stop.
prominent in it.
Stop pushing. Stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen.
Okay, let's talk about this. Do you know where these? At some point, did the law enforcement ask you if you communicated with Jennifer?
How do you mean that?
At some point, did you give the screenshots of these messages to law enforcement?
I did.
Okay. So part of the problem, these are screenshots. Do you know? Is that correct?
Yes, they are screenshots.
Okay. I'm going to approach with the actual paper copy to see if maybe this is a little easier to read. It's just cut off, so I guess just do the best.
Yeah. I'm not
Okay,
really sure.
we'll clear it up because we have a complete. But can you just read what you can understand?
On this next part, it says story being uncovered. Already seeing some stuff on Facebook. People are figuring out what's going on.
And she responds,
I'm off Facebook.
okay. And the next slide.
I'm still in shock. What did Angela post?
Okay, so that text that you couldn't read, do you remember? Was that about Angela?
I do not recall.
Okay. And she responds, you respond,
I said, can you receive pictures? I'll screenshot it. And she said, yes, I'm here. And then I sent her a screenshot.
do you remember what the screenshot without reading exactly what it said, what the nature of it was?
The poster had been extremely frustrated and upset about what happened with the shooting.
Okay. And were there any threats in that screenshot?
I do not remember.
Okay. We'll pull it up. Hold on 1 second. All right, so the next time you text her at 10:45, can you tell the jury what you said?
I cannot believe people on Facebook. I'm so sorry you're having to deal with this stuff.
Okay, and because I know this is going to be something counsel wants to talk to you about, can you tell us what were you feeling at that moment when this was going on about Jennifer and the whole situation?
I was extremely upset about the situation.
Okay. Can you give me a little more than extremely upset?
I didn't really know what to think. I couldn't believe that this had happened, and especially so close to, home. And I was concerned about what was going to happen in the future.
Okay.
With just my farm in general.
And you at the time were how old?
That was
2 years ago.
2 years ago. I was 25.
All right. And were you feeling bad for Jennifer?
I did not truly feel bad for Jennifer. I was upset that this had happened to all of the kids and families, and I wanted to figure out how I could possibly get more information to help make sure that things were taken care of.
Okay, were there any students at Oxford that you gave lessons to or were at the barn? What is the community like there?
Yes, I give lessons to a few people from Oxford.
Okay. All right, the next slide. This is at 11 p.m. that night. Can you read your text?
Did you guys leave the medication for Billy's legs? If not, no worries. I'll just put my stuff on him.
And she responds,
I'll bring by tomorrow. We're in hotel in Lapeer. News live at our house.
and you respond?
No problem.
And then at 11:40 you say what?
Please stay safe.
Okay. Next one. This is a screenshot that you sent or she sent?
She had sent me.
Okay. And she responded?
I can't go home.
Okay. And did you read those?
What I could just from the screenshot.
Okay. Did you view those as threats to her life?
Your Honor, I would object as to her opinion.
Yes, sustain.
Okay. The text, the screenshot speaks for itself. Next slide. Okay, go ahead.
I'm concerned for you guys. You should stay.
All right. While we're getting a copy that actually is clear, why are you concerned? Why were you concerned? What does the text says?
My concern was more for the safety of myself and the people at my farm.
That's not what you said.
And
You said you were
here
concerned for you
in
guys.
that concern,
So that's something
I
to cross
am,
on.
Showing sympathy to hopefully figure out maybe more information on what is going to happen if they were going to try to come to my farm or if people were going to show up.
What was the concern?
My concern about them coming to the farm, knowing about the situation that had just happened, is that they may steal things to sell to get money to pay for the...
Your Honor, I would object to this. about her thoughts and feelings about stealing. This is irrelevant and prejudicial.
Issues of fact witness. Ask for facts and fact questions.
Your Honor, she is most likely going to be asked by counsel to explain that she was worried about her safety, and so I'm asking her what she was really worried about. I'm happy to save it on to redirect them.
Okay.
And then she responds what?
I have my pets at home. I'm sorry, I don't want to put anyone at risk. I don't know what to do.
Okay, her pet's at home. Did you know anything about her pets?
I know that she had a dog, at least still, and I think she had a cat.
Okay. And this was still the night of the shooting?
Yes.
The next slide. And in fact, this is at 11:59 p.m. after she says, I'm concerned about my pets. What do you respond?
Best thing you can do is just be honest about things. I'm not sure, I'm wondering about even buying your horses, if that would drag me into this, or if you just sign them over to me.
Okay, and
Best
then
thing you can do is keep
there's
your
consequences
damn mouth
that,
shut.
Clear up, but can you read the last sentence, or the two last sentences?
Two last sentences. I see people saying you're using money from the horses to get a better lawyer or something. People are ridiculous.
All right, next slide.
You should absolutely get a good lawyer.
I'm selling my house too. Lawyer will cost every bit of $200,000, and I don't think that. I think it will be questioned. You won't get dragged in. And then I have responded with.
Safe to say you might have been where you would be called to testify on high. Yeah. Okay, what is your?
Most I can afford to pay is $5,000. Farrier is coming out Thursday also.
And she responds.
That's fine, sold.
Okay.
And she had said, I'll sign Shorty over to you.
All right, next slide.
Okay, want to sign them over tomorrow. I can either write personal check or I can go get money order. I'm not sure I have the cash on me. Can see if they'll let me withdraw that much.
So do you keep that kind of cash at the barn with you?
No,
right.
I do not.
All right. And her response?
I'm bawling right now, Kira. My son ruined so many lives today.
Okay, so do you have the time? Is this all the 11:59, that whole string, if you know?
I do
Can you
not
look on the
know.
paper
It's
copy?
right around in that time. There's no time on this.
$200K for a lawyer, that's very realistic.
There's no.
That's very
no
realistic
time
for
in
a murder
those
trial.
messages.
That's a realistic number.
The last time it shows where the time.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay.
The next, she says, I'm bawling. My son ruined so many lives today. And the next slide?
Then I so wish I could help you out more. I am still in shock too. Take it one day at a time. Be honest about everything. It should help you guys through this.
And then you say, if you guys need anything, and I'll do what I can for you, and I'll take good care of the boys. Who are you talking about?
I am talking about both of your horses.
Okay. She responds,
I know you will.
and then your response?
I wouldn't be surprised
Try
if
to
it wound
rest
up more
up
than
if you
that.
need it. We can talk more tomorrow about the boys.
And she says what?
Okay, thanks for not judging, unlike the whole world.
Okay. Next.
Plan to run? Maybe. That's one possible interpretation.
I know you and
further
James,
evidence of
and
that,
this
but, you know,
doesn't
fair enough.
even remotely make me think that it's your fault. It sounds like Ethan was a troubled kid. It's unfortunate this happened because he did ruin a lot of and I
What's that? Can you read the last few sentences?
yeah, the last few sentences of that that message says, who knows, try to stay calm as and collected as you can.
Okay. I'm going to approach. This is another copy, so you don't have to struggle with the
How can the prosecution have slides like this with stuff cut off? Yeah, that's just sloppy.
Hold on one
That's
moment,
just
Your Honor.
sloppy. Unless there's some reason that she had to. The Becky Hill hearing's a real crap show. I've heard tell. We're going to try to squeeze it in tonight, guys.
Okay, we're
gonna try to squeeze it in tonight.
Better copy so that
I've heard it's a shit
yes,
show.
said in between sentences.
We're going to try to squeeze it in tonight. It's going to be a long streaming day, people. Brace yourselves.
One moment. Okay.
Murdoch jurors
so
were
we've
just
gone
in
over
the
this.
jury
This is
room
at-
watching the juror
we'll start at
testify.
10,
Holy shit,
45.
really?
And
The jurors were in the jury room watching the juror testify. Oh, holy shit. Oh, holy shit.
Okay.
Jurors didn't have their cell phones
All right, can you read
confiscated while
that full,
testifying. Holy shit.
message up from 11:44, the night of the shooting? That
Holy,
you wrote in blue.
shit.
I'm concerned for you guys. You should stay
Wow.
where you are.
Okay.
I'm concerned for you even coming out here. I don't want people finding out about your horses or hurting you while you are here.
Okay. And she responds,
I have my pets at home.
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I don't want to put anyone at risk. I don't know what to do.
And you respond,
Okay.
Again,
Yeah, we're gonna make
because
every
there's
effort
time,
to
go ahead.
stream that tonight.
Best thing you can do is just be honest about things.
We're gonna make every effort to stream
I'm
it
not
today.
sure.
It's just gonna be a long
I'm
day.
wondering about even buying your horses, if that would drag me into this, or if you just sign them over to me, if that would be better for both of us. I could see people saying you're
Jurors were
using
watching
money
other jurors
from the
testify.
horses to
Holy
get a better
shit.
lawyer or something. People are ridiculous.
okay.
Holy
And she
shit.
responds, I'm selling my house too. We've already
Dick
entered this.
Harpootlian must be losing his fucking mind right about now.
It's going to cost everybody $200,000, and I don't think it will be questioned.
I would be
should
screaming
get
bloody
directed.
murder. I'd be
And
screaming
again,
all the bloody murder.
You've read these texts. You said you don't have $5,000, or that's the most you can afford to pay. Scrolling down. She agrees to that, and you tell her you don't know if you can.
Why, holy
draw
shit, there's a
$5,000,
reason you
correct?
keep
Correct,
witnesses
right.
sequestered from each other. You don't want witnesses.
can you read that
You
text
don't want
again that
witnesses
you
to
said
see
to
what
her?
other
That
witnesses
it's complete.
testify to.
I so wish I could help
You
you out
don't. You don't
more.
want the testimony of
I
one
feel
witness to
like
influence the
take it one day
testimony
at
of
a
another
time.
witness.
Be honest about
So you keep them
everything. It should
sequestered.
help you guys
Although they
through
didn't in
this.
the although they didn't in
Please
the
let me
underlying
know
Murdoch
if
trial,
you
which
guys
is
need
weird.
anything,
But that was
I'll
by
do what I
agreement.
can for you. I'll take good care
Well,
of your
yeah,
boys.
typically you sequester the witnesses
she
so they
responds,
can't
"I know
see
you will."
what other
You
witnesses
say,
testify to, so
"Try
their
to get
stories
some rest.
are all
We can
independent.
talk more
So
tomorrow.
now you've tainted all the
Voice.
testimony.
And she
Yeah, no
says,
cross contamination. It's a
okay,
huge
thanks for not
fuck up.
judging us unlike the whole world.
It's an
So
unbelievable
what time
fuck
is
up.
This? This is now the next day at 12:28 a.m.
Yes.
All right, and go ahead and read that entire text that you're. So you're texting her into the early hours,
Yes.
correct? Okay, go ahead.
As the Chief Justice,
you
the
and
former
Ethan,
Chief
this
Justice
doesn't
of South
even
Carolina,
really make
and
me
they're
think
fucking it up
it's
this
your
hard.
fault. It sounds
shit.
like Ethan was a troubled kid. It's unfortunate this happened.
Judge is
because he
pissed,
did
I
lose
bet.
A lot of lives around him.
God
and his
damn.
own. Everything will work out how it's supposed to. I feel everything happens for a reason. Maybe this happened to raise awareness. Who knows? Try to stay calm.
I feel like we're missing out over here right now. We're missing out on the drama
You
and
had an
tea.
amazing right on Billy.
Yes.
Okay, and how does Jennifer respond?
I wish we had warnings, something. He's a good kid that made a terrible decision. I'm glad Billy, good, kills me to sell him.
Okay, did you know what she was talking about?
She was talking about not having
Your
more.
Honor,
Can we
I would
catch up at
object
lunch?
to This witness's opinion.
Well, we only have like an hour of lunch,
I'm
right?
asking
So
her.
probably it's longer than that.
I'm
So
trying to ask her if there was any.
The topic of the conversation?
Yes.
Um,
Did she? What I'm trying to ask, Judge, is did she have any context?
I don't know if we
for
can catch up
this
at lunch.
about warnings.
Okay. She'd have to-
Without saying what
I
you
guess
did.
we could. I guess we
Right.
could
That's
watch
trying
it
to
and then
get to
try to
that.
go back to this at like
Did you have any
1:25.
information?
Maybe we'll
from
change what this
before she
afternoon
sent
stream
you
is about
text
then.
about warnings, about what that meant, not just what you perceived it as.
I can only
Did you have
stream
any
about one
information
thing at a
she provided
time.
Earlier about warnings.
just information of not really talking about her child much, and that he was troubled.
Okay. So you don't know, other than the worksheet
Yeah.
she texted you. Did you that day? Did she say anything about warnings?
No, she
Okay.
did not.
All right, and you respond.
There probably were warnings, but nobody saw them. Hindsight is always 20/20. I absolutely adore Billy.
Okay, and the next.
A lot of people have found out, I guess Ethan is all over Facebook. People at the barn are concerned. I think it would be best if you didn't come out to the barn, or if you do, you must be escorted by the police. I'm really sorry. I'm looking out for my business here too.
All right, and what were you testified earlier you were worried about theft, but what were you worried about? Is there anything else that you were worried about at that point?
I was also worried about just the safety of my other boarders. I do have people that I give lessons to that do go to Oxford, and they did not want to be around if Jennifer and James had come to the farm.
Okay, and she responds to you. This is then the next.
I
day
leave you guys alone for
around
10 seconds, and there's a total
9:56
shit show
a.m. What does she
unfolding in South
respond?
Carolina.
Seriously, those horses are the only thing.
I'm
that
blaming
is
the
in my
chat.
life right now.
This is your fault.
And I responded with, I 100% understand that, but we all need to be careful. What if people follow you here?
Okay, the next messages indicate that it says Kira missed your call. Is there a way to call through a Facebook Messenger that doesn't include, it's not a cell phone call? Are those two different things if you know?
Yes.
Okay. And had you received Facebook calls from Jennifer before?
She has attempted to call through
Okay.
Facebook before.
And you didn't pick up?
I did not.
Is there a reason for that?
I do not remember what I was doing at that time.
Okay. And the next message?
Call me on Facebook, on track phone, need to talk and figure some things out.
And what is your response?
Sorry, I missed your call. I'm still doing some stuff and can't do a phone call until later on.
And then you say, can you message me? And
Oh, yeah.
communicate that way. Correct?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, next message. She says what?
Let's talk later, easier than texting. This phone is hard to text on.
And now your response is, now this is 3 o'clock, the day after the shooting. You respond what?
All right, no problem. I'll let you know later today.
And then you text her again that night at around 8 p.m.?
If you're comfortable coming out here without police, I'm okay with it too. We just need to be careful.
Becky
I
Hill's
don't
supposed to
want
testify this
people to follow
afternoon.
you or hurt you.
This whole trial is tainted.
It seems as if you're
Oh my
changing
God.
your mind here and you're not exactly sure how to handle it. What's going on with that text? Because that's opposite of what you said earlier.
Your Honor, I would object to the narrative being provided by
Dick
the prosecution.
Harpootlian must be
Ask that
losing his
she ask
fucking
questions.
Okay, well, I think she is. She's asking, did you change your mind?
I had changed my mind to allow her to come to the farm, but in my head, if she did,
If this were happening and I were the lawyer, I'd probably be screaming
I
my
would still
fucking head
have
off. Right about now.
Like, you know, my
Probably have to
parents were
carry
there.
me away in like a
So make sure
straitjacket or
things are
some
still
bullshit.
safe.
Because
Okay, and
this
were
is
you
such
continuing to
absolute
talk to other people
horror
like your
feeling.
parents during this time about what to do? Or were you pretty set?
I had talked to my parents.
Okay. What is her response shortly after that? That's still 8:12 p.m.
We're out of the area for a few days in a safe place until we have a better grasp on everything.
Okay, and the next message you send?
I am very glad you are safe. I care about you guys. I will take care of your boys. Let me know when you want me to buy them and I'll buy them.
And then you also add, if you need anything else, could just let me know.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess we're going to switch to
And
this
the
afternoon's
next message she
coverage now.
sends is
All right, let
about
me change
an hour or so later at 9 p.m.
this afternoon.
And what does she say?
Unbelievable.
I'm sorry, my keyboard sucks. Let's plan on Monday to sail.
Okay. And at this time,
What'd you guys do?
December 1st would be
What'd you
a
guys do?
Wednesday,
Yeah,
if you know.
I think. I'm not good with dates.
Okay. And so Monday is 4 or 5 days later.
Yes.
Okay. And then you respond, okay, sounds good. Is there a way for me to get the medication for his legs before then? Who are you talking about, Billy?
I was talking about Billy because
Okay.
he had the medication that was being used to treat his fever.
The mud fever?
Yes.
All right. And then she responds,
What's your number? I want to call and set up a safe place to meet. My messenger is probably being monitored. And
okay, she's telling you at 9:30 on Wednesday night, my messenger is probably being monitored. What did you take that to mean? What messenger?
She is referring to the Facebook Messenger.
So you monitored meaning that the messages you're sending are being monitored.
Correct.
Did you know who was monitoring them?
I did not.
Okay. And then she says what?
She says, "Hey, we need to get that stuff to you and discuss the horses."
Okay, so this is the following day at 12:49. She says we need to get that stuff and discuss the horses. And how do you respond?
My response.
Who's Truman?
Truman is our farrier that we use.
You're what?
Our farrier.
Okay. Were Billy and Shorty having a farrier visit?
Yes.
Okay. And that was arranged by who?
Me. All the horses get done at the same time.
Okay. So you say Truman's here right now. I can let you know when he's done. And you say I'll message you when I'm done.
Yes.
Okay. And then
Said, "Hey, I'm sorry. Can we do call tomorrow morning?"
okay. Were you trying to avoid a conversation or you were just busy?
Both.
Okay. Fair. All right. And the next message comes in December 2nd. Yep. Can we still sell the horses tomorrow?
Yeah.
And you respond, this is at 10:56 p.m. You respond what?
I think so. Want me to have cash or check?
And how does she respond?
Cash is best.
And you respond what?
What do you want to do with your tack?
And what's tack?
Like the saddles and bridles for the horses.
And she says sell it?
Yes.
Okay, and now this is December 3rd at 7:19 a.m., correct?
Yeah.
Is that what it says?
That's that message on there.
Okay, that's UTC -5, so that is the actual time. That's 7:19 a.m. And that is
Yeah.
December 3rd. And you respond what?
I can probably give you $800 for it all if you want. Are you able to meet today still?
Okay, and that is do you know if that was Friday?
I do not remember.
Okay, no worries. And her response is what?
Her response was maybe. They're announcing charges at 12, so not
The
sure
judge's
what's
ordered
happening.
bail to sit in the jury room.
Okay.
I don't know if it makes
So-
any difference at this point, man.
That is...
Too late for that, man. Damn.
If I told you that was a Friday, do you have any reason to
Too late, man.
December 3rd.
I do not know.
The judge is going to try to salvage this bullshit.
So, do you know what she's talking about? Charges? Did you have any clue as to what that was about? Just yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. From Jennifer or from another source?
News.
Okay. And you respond at 11 a.m. shortly, about 45 minutes after. Just let me know and we can figure something out. Do you have the papers for the boys? Is that like ownership papers?
Registration papers, because both of the horses are registered.
And then you follow up saying what?
If you will take $5,800 for horses and all the tax and stuff included, I'll go get the money today, so I have it ready when you are ready.
Okay, and she responds, yes, and Brian will contact you. Papers are at my house. Brian's a mutual friend that you both know?
We both know him.
Okay,
Jennifer's closer to him than I am.
Thank you. And you respond, did you find a place for your other animals? Were you talking about her pets at home?
Yes.
Okay. And she says, not yet. This is at 2 p.m. And then you respond, I can find them good homes with my family members if you want. And that's around 2 p.m. as well. Is that the last message you sent or had exchanged with her?
I do not know if that's the last time that I talked to her with this.
Okay. Did you give all of the messages on that day, the screenshots to law enforcement that you had?
I did, yes.
Okay. Where are what happened to the horses? Did she end up, did you buy them?
I did not buy them. They were actually signed over to me. Part of our boarding contract is if payment is not made after a certain number of days or months, then the horses become the property of the facility to cover the costs of having them boarded.
Okay, and you were making those arrangements with somebody else other than Jennifer?
Jennifer's dad.
Okay, all right. Nothing further at this time.
Thank you.
All right, I've changed this afternoon screen,
Or morning.
so that's what we're doing now.
My name is Shannon Smith. I represent Mrs. Crumbley. I believe that I've met you once before when you testified in court at the preliminary exam. Do you recall that?
I do.
If I ask you any questions that are at all confusing, can you please stop me and let me know?
I will.
Okay, thank you. I want to start off by talking about your relationship with Jennifer Crumbley. You testified today that you had a business relationship with her. Is that correct?
It was a business relationship, but also a friendship, but we were not super close friends.
Okay, so you would agree that at the time prior to November 30th of 2021, Jennifer Crumbley was also a friend to you. Not particularly close, but a friend.
Correct.
And the farm that you own, do you call it a farm or a barn?
It's both.
Okay, I keep using the word interchangeably, so I thought I'd ask.
Either works.
The property you own is approximately 51 acres, is that correct?
Correct.
And it's fair to say that to get to your property, there are long roads in a very rural area. Is that correct?
Yes.
So your farm is not right up against cities or areas with a lot of traffic, correct?
Correct.
On those roads that are close to the farm, it's fair to say that the cell signal cuts in and out for different cell phones.
Correct.
And you personally, at the time all of this took place, had a phone through Verizon Wireless, correct?
Correct.
And you would be able to use your Verizon phone while at the farm.
For the most part, depending on the area and also just the day.
So there were some parts of the farm or parts of the day where you would also have trouble getting a signal to make phone calls or send text messages, correct?
Correct.
And you know from the other people who board and come to the farm that other people also have internet issues and are unable to receive calls and texts while at the barn.
Yes, sometimes people would struggle with that.
It sounds like there's one little area by a picnic table where people kind of flock if they want to check their texts or get data. Is that correct?
It very well could be. There are a couple areas that seem to maybe be a little bit more reliable service-wise, but even then, like sometimes if it's too windy, things don't work.
Now, you testified that Jennifer Crumbley gave you information that her son was weird, although she talked about vacations and some other things with him. Is that true?
Correct.
And you testified that you had concerns about her son prior to the events that unfolded on November 30th, correct?
I have not voiced to her that I had seen concerns, but in my mind I had thought that, you know, some of the things that she had described or how she didn't really talk about him much, or if, you know, when she had talked about him, it was very vague. Like, people like to talk about their children, and she did not talk about her children.
One moment. And whatever's on the screen is not an exhibit, and so
Do I just go ahead and turn this off?
What's the button there?
There's a button for it to go and use.
Should I just pull my plug out?
I don't know. Is this yours?
Yes.
Is this yours?
Yeah, this is my
Oh.
laptop. It was. I didn't realize it was turned on to my laptop, so my desktop was evidently up there. Okay, so Miss Pennock, when you so you've testified obviously here today, but you recall testifying at a preliminary exam that took place back in 2022, correct?
Yes.
And on the day you testified in 2022 at the preliminary exam, you did the same thing we saw here in court. You raised your right hand and swore to tell the truth, correct?
Correct.
And on that date, you did your best to take the stand and tell the truth about your knowledge of the information in this case.
Correct.
Now, on that date when you testified, you were specifically asked, have you ever been given reason to believe he was not mentally sound, that he needed professional, medical help? And your answer was no on that.
Correct.
You were also asked, have you ever had reason to believe the shooter was homicidal or he would hurt other people? And your answer was no, correct?
Correct.
Now, today you testified that the shooter, you were told about issues related to the shooter and him being weird, correct?
Correct.
You testified about that issue at the preliminary exam, and I'm on page 55, and you were asked, when you said that...
Objection, Your Honor. You're on page 55 of what?
The preliminary exam.
So the witness doesn't have that, and I think she doesn't have it.
This is impeachment.
Right, but she's referencing a page number to something that nobody else
Oh, I
has.
think she was referencing the page number so that you'd know where she is.
Right.
In the exam.
Okay, it's not an exhibit, so I'm just wondering if we're going to refer to
the wrong
certain
way to
things that she
impeach.
said that she'd be
Doing
allowed to
impeachment
also
wrong.
see that before she answers.
Well, I think she said if she doesn't remember, if she doesn't recall, right?
Otherwise, with impeachment, I don't need to put the...
So
This is not the right way to do impeachment.
He calls being asked a certain question.
Okay. At the preliminary exam, You testified about whether James and Jen had issues with their son.
Do you recall that?
I recall.
And on that date, you said, I had never gotten the feeling that Jen and James had those types of issues with their son, correct?
Correct. I did not know if there were specific issues, as they had never told me flat out that there were issues, but just some of their behaviors that they, or comments that they had made, indirect comments, made me think that there may have been issues at some point.
So it's your testimony today that you thought there may have been issues, but when you were asked under oath and testified in 2022, you specifically said, I had never gotten the feeling that Jen and James had those types of issues with their son.
I did not know. I don't have any paper proof or documentations of conversations to know for sure, so they're just my feelings.
Okay.
Oh my God.
I'm not asking if you have documentations or proof. I am just saying that on...
All right. Let me help you out, counselor. Here's how you do this. Do you remember giving a deposition in this case? Yes. And that deposition occurred in whenever it occurred, yes. And you were under oath at that time, correct? Yes, I was. Okay, I'm now handing you a copy of your deposition. Is this the deposition that you gave? Yes. I please direct your attention to page 55, line 4. Please read page 55, line 4. I never had any concerns that they were going to kill him. Thank you. Oh my God.
That date in 2022, which was closer in time to the events in this case, your testimony, sworn testimony, was that James and Jen did not have those issues with their son, correct?
Correct.
Have her read it. Just have her read it. Oh my God.
Now, when the math drawing was sent over to you by Mrs. Crumbley, the math paper her son wrote on, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. You ultimately saw that math paper, and you would agree with me that Jennifer appeared very concerned about what was going on, correct?
She has stated that she...
It's really sad when I, who am not a trial lawyer, know how to do this, and she, as a trial lawyer, doesn't. That's just sad.
was concerned.
Okay. So she sends you the math paper and expresses concern.
Yes.
Now, you testified that when you heard there was a shooting at Oxford High School, you knew who the shooter was, correct?
My feeling with the information that I was given before I had actually seen it on the news, who the shooter actually was, I had my feelings about who the shooter was.
So you did not believe that the shooter...
Yeah, you're a
would have
lowly
committed
paralegal,
the
but you
school
know that?
shooting
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right?
based on the math paper alone,
Like, yeah, how do you
correct?
do this? Okay. Yeah,
I do
it's
not
not
know
that
for
hard.
sure.
If you saw that math paper and thought there would be a school shooting, you would have told someone, correct?
I cannot predict the future that there would have been a shooting, but I was very concerned about the sheet, the math test that was sent to me, and I did talk to my parents about the math test that I was
Yeah,
shown,
really.
and
Yeah, you want the jury to hear
my
the words in her own voice.
understanding
Exactly.
is that,
You make her say it.
with
That's the way to do it.
James meeting.
That's exactly the way you do it. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. Isn't it? Do you remember giving a deposition in this case? Yes. That deposition occurred in whenever. Yes. And that deposition was under oath. Correct. You took the same oath to tell the truth at that deposition that you did here before this jury, correct? And you answered honestly and truthfully as you swore to do, correct? Correct. I'm now handing the defendant a copy of the deposition. Is this the deposition? Is this the deposition? Yes, it is. And is this the deposition that you swore under oath? Yes. And you swore to tell the truth? Yes. All right, I'd like to direct your attention to page whatever, line whatever. Could you please read line whatever? I was not concerned about Ethan Crumbley committing the murders. Thank you very much. Moving on. That's how you do it. It's not hard. Jeez.
This was discussed.
Okay, we can agree that after the meeting about the math paper, Jennifer was concerned. We already went through that, yes?
Yes.
We can agree that she sent you a picture of the math paper and you also felt concerned, correct?
Correct.
And we can agree that you did not call law enforcement or police to say, hey, I think a school shooting is going to unfold, correct?
Correct.
At the time you saw the math paper and were concerned, you would have stopped a school shooting if you predicted it was going to happen, correct?
I would not have known that something like this would have happened.
You wouldn't have thought something like this would happen, correct?
Correct.
What ended up happening was horrible, correct?
Correct.
And it was not anything that you expected, even, correct?
Correct.
So she's going to foreseeability.
So when you are telling the jury,
She's trying
that
to
you
prove
hear about the
foreseeability. I mean,
shooting,
fair enough.
You're thinking about the math paper. You know it's at Oxford High School. Your testimony
doesn't know how to impeach
was
people.
you had an idea of who the shooter was.
Lawyers don't seem to
correct?
know how to impeach
Correct.
people. We have not seen a lot of lawyers do it
In
right.
order to reach that conclusion at that time, you had to
not
rely
hard.
on hindsight, looking backwards at things that you believed supported Jennifer's son may be the shooter, correct?
Yes, the only thing that the thing that made me believe that I knew who the shooter was realizing the math test that was sent to me that morning.
Right.
So after the shooting happened, I had a feeling of who the shooter was because of the math test that was sent to me that morning.
Okay, so it's looking backwards, connecting the dots of things you see that were of concern, and knowing the shooting happened, that helps you put it together who the shooter is.
Correct.
But again, if you saw that math paper and had known or had a crystal ball and knew the shooting was going to
Objection asked and
unfold,
answered.
you would have certainly called police or done something to stop it.
Absolutely.
You also would have said to Mrs. Crumbley, hey, I think your son is going to do something to hurt people, correct?
Correct.
Or, hey, I think your son might
So
do
she's
something
trying to
to hurt
drive home
himself.
the point about foreseeability.
Correct.
That's what
And
she's
it's
trying
fair
to
to
do.
say that you did not send Mrs. Crumbley messages along those lines.
And I don't blame her. She wants to make sure the jury hears the point, and counsel isn't objecting. So why not keep asking the question?
Now, you
Opposing counsel
testified
appears
that
to
you
not
were
mind.
being kind to Mrs. Crumbley. I don't believe you used the word being kind, but I characterize it as kind. When you said to her, I'm so sorry you have to deal with this, text messages along those lines that have been admitted, correct?
Correct.
And you are aware that Mrs. Crumbley from the text messages was saying she can't go home?
Correct.
And you were expressing concern for her in response to her saying, I can't go home?
Correct.
We can agree there was a strong public opinion against the Crumbleys that you were aware of.
Correct.
Many people were very angry with the Crumbley parents when they knew the Crumbley parents were the parents of the shooter.
Correct.
So So one of Mrs. Crumbley's concerns that was discussed in these texts with you were for her safety and the safety of
I do find
her
it a little bit difficult to listen to this
Correct.
lawyer just because
And
of her
that-
cadence and talking style.
poured over onto you
She
as
could use some
well.
voice classes,
As
I'm
the
just
barn
saying.
owner, you needed to be concerned about your affiliation with the Crumbleys.
I find her sing-songy voice.
And you needed to be concerned to
Kinda
make
lose
sure
attention.
that you were not specifically harmed by anyone for being affiliated with them, correct?
I wanted to make sure that myself, my family, and my barn family were also safe.
Well, that was going to be my next question. You were concerned about yourself, and I'm sorry, you said your family.
My close family.
After
and
a
then
while, it
also
just becomes
what
kind of
we
a
call
drone.
barn family, or
It's
people
very
that are
difficult
quartered
for
at
me
my
to continue
facility.
focusing.
Thank you. And that's why you made indications to Mrs. Crumbley about not coming to the barn or only coming with a police escort because you were watching out for what you needed to protect, which is yourself, the people you care about, and your borders.
Correct.
When you write to Mrs. Crumbley in the texts that were admitted, please stay safe, you
Do I
genuinely
believe the
wanted
parent should be
Mrs.
charged?
Crumbley to stay safe.
Correct.
And Mrs. Crumbley was explaining
Legally,
that
I
she can't
don't
go
think so.
home. Those texts speak for themselves.
Correct.
And Mrs. Crumbley ultimately says that they are staying out of town for a few days.
Correct.
And it's your understanding they were not returning back to their home address.
Correct.
In the text, you say to Mrs. Crumbley, you give her some advice to be honest about everything, correct?
Correct.
At no point, there is no point where Mrs. Crumbley says to you, hey, I'm going to lie about this, correct?
Correct.
There's no point where she says, Kara, please take my side and lie about anything, correct?
Correct.
When you're giving her the advice to tell the truth, she's not saying to you, I'm not planning to do that, right?
Correct.
And in your texts, you confirm to Mrs. Crumbley that you don't remotely think it's Jen and James' fault that the shooter did this, correct?
I did put that in the text message, correct.
Make her read it. Make her read
And
it.
then Mrs. Crumbley responds that she wishes there had been warnings, correct?
Correct.
And when you text her back, you say there probably were, but nobody saw them, right?
I did have that in my message, correct.
And if you had seen warnings that the shooter would do something like he did, you certainly would have voiced that to Mrs. Crumbley.
Your Honor, I believe she's been asked that question a couple of times.
Well,
Yeah.
I think she asked if you saw that picture in People
Very
74.
sustained. All the sustained. Move on, counselor.
So there's a mass shooting. There's going to be a mass
I
shooting.
feel.
So
Move on,
Good
counselor.
questions.
We've done this a couple times.
I believe she also asked her if you would have said something to Mrs. Crumbley. I'm concerned.
Did she ask you that already?
Yes, a variation.
I did ask that, but then further down in the text messages, the conversation shifts, and the conversation is specifically, again, about signs and warnings, and so that's why I'm asking this witness a question about it again.
Okay.
Only because it reappears.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so you never said to Jennifer Crumbley when you two were discussing the word warnings, hey, I think there were warnings, correct?
Can you rephrase that?
You did not say to
Thank
Mrs.
you, Dirk.
Crumbley when you
Do law
guys were
school offer
talking
oral
about
presentation
wishing there
techniques?
were warnings.
Sure, they offer mock trial.
You didn't
in
say,
court.
Jennifer, there were
They
warnings.
teach you, and they offer trial efficacy.
That is correct. Because
Which I've taken all those
I-
things.
That's just my question. You did not say, Jennifer, there were warnings.
Correct.
And in fact, you continued to go on to be kind to Mrs. Crumbley and continue working out the terms of buying this horse, correct?
Correct.
And you continued to be concerned and telling Mrs. Crumbley, stay where you are, and that you didn't want people hurting them.
I love
correct?
this Court of trial. I love debate. I miss debate. I miss formal debate. It's just not the same.
When Mrs. Crumbley was commenting to you about a lawyer
they'd
costing
come on,
$200,000, you understood she was trying to gather money together to pay a lawyer, retain a lawyer.
Correct.
And at that point, the shooting by the shooter had taken place, correct?
Correct.
And you do not know who the lawyer was for that Mrs. Crumbley was going to be thinking about paying $200,000 to, correct?
I did not know for sure.
May I have one moment, Your Honor?
Sure.
Okay. Ms. Pennock, in light of your testimony, I just want to confirm, you have never suspected that Jennifer Crumbley has stolen anything from you, correct?
No.
You've never filed a police report or made that kind of claim to Mrs. Crumbley or anyone, correct?
No.
Thank you.
Regret?
Kira, did you have any trouble receiving and sending Facebook messages that day when you, in the thread that I had you read?
I do not remember.
Okay, but you successfully communicated with her?
Correct.
Okay. Counsel asked you a couple times about text messages you sent Jennifer, and you wanted to explain. You said, that's what I wrote in the text. And you, what do you mean when you say that?
A lot of the messages that I had sent, I wanted to send them in a way that I could possibly gain more information to provide to the law and get this situation taken care of.
Okay. Did you have any other concerns about being in a confrontation or a fight?
Not directly with them.
Okay. And she just asked you about concerns about theft, and you said no, you didn't prior to this, so why were you concerned about it now?
I was concerned because when somebody needs a lot of money and then they're in a tight spot with something like this case, that they may do things that they may not have ever thought about doing, and one of those things was stealing things to sell for money to cover the expenses of things that might need to be covered.
Okay. Nothing further, Your Honor. May she be excused?
You can step down in your excuse.
Question calls for a lot of speculation.
Who is the next witness and what would their duration on this be if we now also
Mr. Hopkins, it won't be.
We'll have a 150 party.
Much if that's what the court said.
Are you guys good? I waited a long time this morning. Can we call another witness and then I think your lunch will be here at 12-ish. We'll start another witness. Is that okay? Okay.
They're bringing him from down.
Okay.
I really hope we hit 200,000 relatively sooner rather than later. We're a long way from there. We haven't been growing at the pace I like. And we don't have the number of live viewers that I'd like either, so maybe we have to switch it up or something. Maybe when I move, I'll try something different, try something more similar to what Nate has, because he seems to be really growing a lot. So maybe I'll try to use some of his format ideas. He doesn't do a lot of live streams. Just does a lot of edited videos on things. And he's growing like crazy. Maybe I'll try that. Of course, he has better editing than I do, so I need to pay an editor. Skip ahead to live. Nate the lawyer is bringing in a lot of money. He brought in a lot of money last year through YouTube. A lot more than I did. By several factors. So he's living a much more comfortable lifestyle than me. So we're going to figure out how to change this up.
People call Shawn Hopkins, Judge.
I can't speak to why the parents were not charged with any other crimes. I can't speak to that issue. Nate's editor is very
Hopkins, could you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in the truth so help you God?
I do.
Okay, please be seated. And then would you state your name for the record and spell your first and last name?
Shawn Hopkins, S-H-A-W-N, last name H-O-P-K-I-N-S.
May I, Judge?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. Sir, did you work with the Oxford High School in November of 2021?
I did.
Okay. And what did you do there?
I was a counselor at the high school.
Do you still work with Oxford School District?
I am currently on leave through the end of the school year.
Okay. So you said you were a counselor. What exactly does that mean?
As a counselor, I oversaw my caseload of students. I had approximately 400 students while at Oxford High School. I helped them with post-secondary planning, scheduling. I helped them also with social emotional issues and really kind of working with them holistically throughout their time in school.
Okay, so you said you had about 400 students in your caseload, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, so how many students, if you know, attended Oxford High School in November of 2021?
I believe it was around either 1750, 1800.
Okay, so how many counselors were there?
There were 4 counselors with main caseloads, and then we had a counselor who had early college students.
Okay. So the 4, you call them main counselors, would they have a similar type of caseload?
Yeah, we were divided out
Well,
alphabetically, so we each took about...
to the extent that RA is doing better than me, it speaks
So
to
you described
something.
a few different duties.
So if they have to
Any
make a choice
primary
between me and
responsibilities
RA, why are they
or you
choosing RA?
Sort of have a lot of different responsibilities.
I would call it a lot of different responsibilities that were all primary. I don't know that there was one that we would put above the other that I described.
The way
So
you
in your general caseload, did you have regular meetings with students, or was it
RA? Why isn't RA streaming at the same time?
Both,
as
actually. We did have a couple
Sounds
meetings
like-
per year that were scheduled, especially with seniors. We would meet with them regularly, and then we would meet once per year to go over scheduling and making sure that students were getting everything they needed for graduation, and then on an as-needed basis for any students.
RA has
So
its
tell me
own
about your
format.
background, please.
Well, I graduated from college in 2009. Actually started as a youth pastor.
experiment with Collins.
Worked in that role for
nervous,
from
but we can try it.
2009 to 2018. I actually crossed over some with my time in the schools. I graduated with a master's in counseling from Oakland University
Because I'm not
in
condemning,
2015.
Jennifer.
Served
I feel like
the
she's super guilty.
2014-2015
That could be
school
too.
year as an
Yeah,
intern at
that could be
Oxford
true,
High
too.
School, and then was hired on full-time after that.
Okay, is that where you had been employed up until, from that point up until the time you went on leave?
No, I was at Oxford Bridges High School for the 2022-23 school year.
Okay, what is that?
That's the alternative high school within the Oxford School District for students who are credit deficient and at risk for graduation because of their credits.
Okay, thank you. So, did any of your responsibilities as a counselor at the high school involve disciplining students?
They did not.
Okay, so who would handle that?
That would have been the dean or principals.
Okay. So, November of 2021, Oxford High School, at that point, were students still masked?
They were.
Okay. Was it in-person learning, or was it hybrid, or was it remote?
It was primarily in person. We did have times when we were unable to stay in person due to amount of students out with COVID tracing.
Okay, so it was in person whenever possible. Would that be
Yes.
correct? Okay. Now, what sort of issues would arise with the students in your caseload in the fall of 2021?
It was a difficult time. Looking back on it, it was a time when, it was a lot unknown for students, especially if they would be quarantined at times. You were working with them, making sure they were able to stay caught up. We actually had teachers filming their class as they were teaching their class, oftentimes, to make sure that they were able to keep students engaged even when they were out. So it was difficult from a scholastic standpoint, which in a lot of ways led to it becoming difficult from an emotional standpoint for students, where it just became, the unknown can be difficult sometimes.
What sort of mental health struggles would you see around that time?
We saw a lot of depression, anxiety, students struggling, and we saw suicide ideation and unfortunately suicide attempts during that time.
Tell us, please, what exactly does suicide ideation mean?
It's a difficult one to define for a lot of people, but really what suicide ideation is are themes or things which may be related to suicide. So we could see sadness, which in itself isn't suicidal, or we could see depression, which in itself isn't suicidal. But when we see these themes together, sometimes they can be linked with suicide.
Okay. In November of 2021, as well as the previous school year, was Jennifer Crumbley's son one of the students assigned to your caseload?
He was.
Okay. When would have been the first time you interacted with Jennifer Crumbley's son?
To my memory, the first time would have been in the fall of the 2021 school year.
Okay, so what purpose would you have interacted with him then? You would have been a freshman at the high school?
Well, I do know that there have been things I interacted with him as a freshman, but I don't have memory of those. We would have done scheduling, we would have done just normal routine things, but I don't have a memory of that.
So when you say scheduling, you mean scheduling classes?
Yeah,
Okay, so that was one of your responsibilities as well?
it was.
Okay. Now, first of all, is Jennifer Crumbley in the courtroom today?
Yes, she is.
Can you point here and describe something she's wearing today, please?
She is to my right, wearing a black jacket.
Your Honor, with the record reflecting identification?
The record will reflect in-court identification of the defendant, Jennifer Crumbley.
So in the defendant's son's freshman year, that's the fall of 2020 into early parts of 21, do you have any recollection of interacting with him?
I don't.
Okay. Now, did you interact with him in the, if I showed you an email, would it refresh your recollection if you met with him in the spring of 2021?
I have seen this email. I don't have memory of the meeting, but it's been documented.
Okay. This is exhibit, I don't believe we have an objection to exhibits 155 through 160.
I'm sorry, let me just double check here. That's correct, 155 through 160.
You don't have an objection to any of those?
No.
Okay, 155 through 160 are admitted.
Mr. Hopkins, I'm going to direct you to the screen right in front of you. This is exhibit 155.
Thank you, main girl 207, for coming on civilian. We do appreciate
This is
everyone.
a copy of an email.
For 99 cents, it's that beautiful, beautiful join button.
Sent
We do
from
appreciate the financial
a staff member of Oxford High School.
Mm-hmm.
You have to say yes or no.
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell us, please, it was addressed to you May 13, 2021, 1:46 p.m.?
That is correct.
Okay, what does the email say?
It's, hi, when you get a chance, can you call redacted down and see how he's doing? He's failing my class and tries to sleep all the time in class.
Okay, so this was in reference to the defendant's son.
That is correct.
This is a portion of the same email thread. Also, May 13, 2021. This is 2:07 p.m. And what was your response?
It says, I'll catch him before the end of the day.
Okay. And then did that staff member respond to you?
Yes.
And what was that?
Thanks. Just a little worried.
Okay. Now, do you recall having a conversation with the
My mic is
defendant's
in there
son in
now.
May of 2021?
I do not recall this meeting.
Really? There's a problem with my microphone?
I'm going to show you what's been admitted as People's 156. This is
There shouldn't be a problem with my
Remember,
microphone.
yes.
Is there a problem with my microphone?
September the 8th, 2021, 8:23 a.m. This is an email from a different teacher to you. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. And could you read us, please, what the email says?
Hi, Shawn. Could you please touch base with student? In his autobiography poem, he said he feels terrible and that his family is in the
Looks okay here.
Unusual responses for sure.
Okay. Did you respond to that email?
I believe I did.
Okay, so this is your response, September the 8th, 2021.
No issue with my mic.
9:15 a.m.
Going way low when the audio
Thanks
and
for the
trials
heads up. I'm
get
in senior
normalized
meetings
down.
throughout the day, but we'll try.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if I talk slower, if I talk softer, it definitely
Now,
gets
do you
down.
recall that interaction with the defendant?
I mean, I could
In this case, I did not have a direct interaction.
I
with
could
the
bring the audio of the
son.
trial
I
down
talked with
further
the
so
teacher.
that it doesn't
Okay, and tell us about that, please.
impede as
I had a
much.
conversation with the teacher, and she explained to me.
I'll bring the audio
a
down
little
of
bit
the
more context of what had gone on.
YouTube, another 5
She
decibels, so it
explained
doesn't
that he
impede as
was
much.
joking.
I would object to the hearsay.
It's not offered for the truth of the matter, sir, the judge. Just offer what
I can't really get the compressor settings to do exactly what I want to, no matter how I adjust them.
So I had a conversation with the
sometimes
teacher
when I
who gave me
speak
greater
softer,
context
it
of what
doesn't
was
make up
going
as
on
much.
within this.
But
and she
yeah, I mean, it's
said that
picking
he was
everything
actually-
up. It's just, yeah, I don't know what else to do there.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
But I'll bring the audio of the trial down another 5 decibels so it won't get past negative 20. So hopefully my voice won't
Nate, did you
get drowned out as
I
much.
did not have a meeting. I did not have a meeting with the student
Okay.
at this time.
And did you send an email to?
I think the issue is your leveler is leveling the whole output trial and you. No, they're on independent levelers. So when the trial's noisy, you get slightly muted. Yeah.
Now, in Oxford High School, are grades posted so parents can follow along?
They are.
Okay, and what system is that?
That is
Check
through a
1 2,
system
check 1
called
2.
Power School.
Okay.
They are given
Hello,
live
everyone.
updates
Welcome to
through
Civil
that
Law.
system.
And that's every parent of every student
second,
registered
hold
in
on a
Oxford
second.
School District that can follow along with assignments and things of that nature.
Yes.
And our parents also provided emailed updates to Power School.
I believe that they can get notifications through the Power School system.
And that's sent to email.
I am not sure.
If you-
how
if
that-
you-
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Uncivil Law, where we learn through the misfortunes of
Now,
others.
this was
As always, I hope you enjoy this
September
legal
the
educational content.
2021.
Today's the day I earned that subscription. I don't even think the side ducking is working.
Now, this is
I don't think
November
the
10th,
I don't think the
2021,
side
2:45
channel ducking
p.m.
is working.
This is an
I don't think it's
email
bringing down the
to you,
audio like
right?
it should.
That is correct.
Okay, and can you tell us what this says, please?
Student is having a rough time right now. He might need to speak with you.
Okay.
Why is the
And
ducking
then
not
your
actually
response
ducking
at
it when I speak?
4 p.m. on November the 10th.
I'm so
2021.
confused.
I'm sorry, I was in a meeting through the end of the day. I'll catch up with him.
Check 1 2 1 2. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Uncivil Law, where we learn through the misfortunes of others.
And did you catch up with him?
As always, I hope you
did
enjoy this
the
legal
following
educational.
day.
It's not ducking
Okay,
it
tell us
properly.
about
Why
it.
isn't it ducking
I
it?
had a quick meeting in the hallway on his way to class and just let him know that if he needed somebody to talk to, that I could be there for him.
Okay. Now, did you contact either that student's mother or father at that point?
I did not.
Okay, did you send an email?
No.
And why not?
Because it was something that was very typical. I didn't have any information on the student other than he was sad, which to me is a pretty common thing and a normal thing. And I just wanted to be able to offer a bridge that if that student wanted to talk.
Okay. And you offered that bridge to the student?
I did meet with that student in the hallway and offered that opportunity.
Okay. And for the record, that was Jennifer Crumbley's son, is that correct?
That is correct.
Now, the next time you
What
had
the hell?
any interaction with the defendant's son was November the 29th, 2021. Would that be right?
Yes.
This is Exhibit 158. Sir, this is an email to you that eventually was forwarded. Is that correct?
This email was eventually forwarded to me fairly quickly after it was sent to the two on this email.
Okay, so this is Monday, November 29th, 9:32
I got a
a.m.
ratio 10 to
Can you read us,
1.
please, what the email says.
I could
had a
up the
student
ratio more.
During first hour today.
Check 1 2 1 2. Hello, everyone. Why is the side chain ducking not working?
Today, as I was walking around the room,
I mean, I don't get this. It should be dropping the volume of the thing automatically, and it's just not doing it, and I don't get it.
End of the hour. Now that he's on my radar, I'm also.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Uncivil Law, where we learn through the misfortunes of others. It's not ducking on the audio.
A bit toward the
God damn it.
side.
Why does my
I can
compressor
bring
not
these
work
things
properly?
later today during my 5th hour prep, if you would like them.
Okay, so this was.
Why does my
9:32
compressor
a.m.
not work
and you were
properly?
on the
It should be
initial
ducking
email
it,
that
and
was
it's not
forwarded to you.
ducking. Why is it not ducking?
Okay, and tell us what happened next, please.
God damn it.
At this point, I received a phone call from Pam Fine, who was on the original email, asking if I would be able to come to her office. She was planning to call down the student and meet to discuss.
Well, we have what we have, I guess.
In the realm of
Fuck
either
me.
a school counselor or someone who's in discipline of students, there are certain levels of escalation when it comes to contacting a student and or a parent.
Why are you not ducking when I'm speaking? Why do you not duck when I speak?
Your Honor, I would ask that the witness answer the questions and avoid the leading questions.
Please.
Okay, okay, so earlier you testified that you had just met with the student's teacher in September of 2021.
Yes.
Okay, and you felt that was sufficient at that point.
Yes, because I was able to gain more context.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Civil Law, where we learn through the misfortunes of others. As always, I hope you enjoy this legal educational content. And today's the day I earned that subscription.
Yes.
Okay, and now a decision was made to just testify
Because the limiter's on?
actually bring the student into the office.
That decision was
God damn it.
made. I was not the one who made that decision.
Sure, but as far as you're concerned in your role, what are the levels of escalation to contact either a parent or somebody else?
It depends on the situation. If it's a discipline issue, I'd be contacting a dean or a principal. And then they would
The
give
ducking
one
doesn't seem to be working if I also have a limiter
it's a
after the compressor
social
in the
emotional
sequence, which
issue
I don't know
or
why that would be,
is
because
that
you think it would
risk
limit
harm
everything down
themselves
inside the
as
compressor
parent.
and then do the limiter, but it doesn't seem to be doing that.
So you said it was Pam Fine who was on that initial email, and what was her role at Oxford High School?
She was a restorative practices coordinator at that time.
So tell me what happened after you received that phone call.
I walked to Pam Fine's office, and the student had been called down and then walked into her office.
Okay, the student being the defendant's son?
Yes.
Okay, tell us about that meeting.
It was fairly brief. I was there as student support throughout the meeting, not to have direct conversation about the content of the meeting, but it was really a chance to get an idea of what he was looking at and why.
Okay. When you said you were there for the standpoint of student support, what does that mean?
Well, when a student is facing a potential discipline issue, it's fairly common to call a counselor in, as we are not the ones issuing the discipline in that case, but we can be a person there who's in the corner for the student.
So is that intentional to keep the discipline separate from the counselor?
Yes.
Why is that?
Because the counselor is not a role of disciplinarian, the counselor is a role of student support.
So your focus then would be on the mental health and well-being of the student, not if the school rule was violated.
That is correct.
You said the meeting was fairly short.
It was less than 10 minutes.
Okay. Was a decision made to take the next step to contact a parent?
There was a phone call to the parent after the meeting.
Okay, now, do you know how that decision was made and why?
I do not know how that decision was made or why.
Okay. Were you there for that phone call?
I was.
And it was a voicemail?
It was a voicemail.
Okay. And who made it? You or Ms. Fine?
Ms. Fine is the one who made the phone call.
Now, when was the next time you had any interaction? Well, first we'll go through the rest of 158 here. It'll be on your screen.
Okay.
This is when it was the email forwarded to you at 9:34. Can you read this email, please?
I sent the following email to Nick and Pam. I wanted to make you aware as well. I'm not sure if you had any contact with this student.
Okay, now who's Nick?
Nick was a dean of students at Oxford High School at the time.
Okay. And 9:36 a.m., you responded to the email. What did you write?
Thanks, Jacqueline. I'll be touching base with him as well.
Okay, thank you. Now, when is the next time that you had contact with the defendant's son?
It would have been the following morning of November 30th.
I'm going to show you what's already been admitted as 159. This is also an email. This is Tuesday, November 30th, 2021 at 8:05 a.m. And you were on this initial email, correct?
Yes.
Okay, could you tell us what the email says, please?
I know Jackie emailed you guys yesterday with some concerns about student in our first hour class. Today he is watching videos on his phone of a guy gunning down people. It looks like it's a movie scene and not security footage / a real event, but definitely still concerning when taking into account some of his other behaviors.
Okay, so this email was sent at 8:05 a.m. the morning of the shooting. What
Yes.
time did you receive it?
Well, I received it at 8:05. I believe I responded and saw it about 30 minutes later.
I'm sorry, that was a bad question. If you recall, what time did you actually read it?
Around 8:30.
Okay. What was your reaction when you read the email?
My first reaction was, here we go again, of another conversation of you have to follow school rules, you have to be able to make decisions that aren't going to be detrimental to your time in class.
Okay. Now, did you receive, subsequently you met with that student, correct?
Sitting in the house says it's never good to compare. I'm only comparing it so much as I'm looking at
Not to my knowledge.
my capture versus my competitor's capture because I want the best capture. So I'm only comparing in so much as I am not getting the number of lives or subscribers or views that I would like, because this is my business and I want to grow. So I'm comparing my business to other people's business, and that's a normal thing to do.
Yes.
This was sent 9:32 a.m. and this was a photograph of a drawing by the defendant's son.
Yes, this was sent after I already had defendant's son in my office.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit then. You looked at the first email around 8:30 in the morning, you said?
Yes.
Okay, and then what decision?
I'm
did you
also
make?
looking at it from an economic perspective
I was
because
on the
this
phone
is
when I
my
saw the email,
income,
hanging up the
and I
phone,
need
actually had,
more income.
Mr. Ejak come to my office.
So that's the basis of my
Because he had
comparison.
been shown the
it's very
status
pragmatic.
which is attached in the email currently on the screen.
Okay, and then tell me about that conversation.
He mentioned that Miss Morgan had shown him this picture. I said, Ethan, because I had his schedule up on my computer going to planning on talking with him.
Okay.
And then I made the decision as the counselor
Big booba
to go into
VTuber?
his class.
Not the worst idea I've ever
because
heard in my life.
When a counselor goes into a class, it could be for anything.
A big boober VTuber legal analysis channel?
Was that because of the email?
Could be
you
interesting.
received Before Mr. Ejak came and saw you, or another reason?
It was based on the email that I received.
Okay.
And then when I already had the information that there was an assignment of some sort going on, then it solidified that decision even further that I was going to talk to the student.
Okay, did Mr. Ejak show that to you, or did you see it from the email?
I did not see it until I saw the assignment in person in the class.
In person?
He was shown a picture of it on the phone.
Who's he?
Mr. Ejak
Okay.
was shown a picture of it on a cell phone.
All right.
So I had not seen the assignment at that point.
All right. And you made the decision to retrieve
SS Sniper Wolf, you write the script she reads.
Bring him to your office.
Yes, his classroom was actually close to my office when he was in that hour.
Okay.
And so I made the decision that as a counselor, it would be easier for me to walk in there because that's a pretty common thing. And then I ended up grabbing the assignment and walking back to my office with the student.
Okay. Now, the first time you saw that assignment was in person in that
I need my
class.
child to grow.
That's correct?
I need more
I really
income.
didn't look at it much. I had it,
Okay.
but I wasn't studying it as we were walking back to my office.
Okay, this is Exhibit 123. It's already been admitted. Now, there's things drawn out in words added and certain words crossed out. Was this the assignment that you retrieved from the defendant's son's classroom?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And then you brought the defendant's son back to your office. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And then when would you say is the first time that you really took a look at this?
A couple minutes after being back into my office was when I really took a look at it.
Okay.
I went through the email I received with him
With
from
who? The
Allison.
defendant's son?
Yes.
Okay.
The email from Allison Karpinski, and then sought clarification on that email. And then after receiving the clarification from the student on that email, I then looked over the paper with the defendant's son.
Okay. And what was your thought when you saw this paper, Exhibit 123?
My first thought was I wanted to get from him what he was doing. His initial response was that it was a video game, that he liked drawing for video games and liked being able to create in that way. So I let him describe it in that way at first, and then I asked him to talk about some of the words that he had written down.
Okay.
Because those stuck out to me.
So by this point, had you seen the original drawing?
No,
Okay. So the words you were asking to explain were on this sheet here, 123.
that is correct.
Okay. So what words in particular stood out to you?
I noticed the words of "I love my life so much," "the thoughts won't stop." I could make out "help me" under the crossed out part, and "harmless act." So it made me concerned that a student may potentially be suicidal or be displaying suicidal ideation.
Okay. So I take it you didn't take the defendant's son explanation at face value.
Yes, we're going to switch to
I didn't
Murdaugh this
take it at
afternoon.
face
I've already
value.
changed the stream for this afternoon.
I accounted for it.
So we're going to go back and we're going to start from the beginning of Murdaugh, and we're going to cover that this afternoon. And as for the afternoon of
So
this
when you
trial,
reviewed this drawing,
I don't know, man. Maybe we'll try to squeeze it in this
before you saw the
evening.
original drawing.
It's going to be interesting,
Then to
for
ask
sure.
more pointed questions.
I did. I really wanted to point out the words that were in the drawing because they were the easiest to see, and I wanted to get explanation for the words that wasn't just, it's a video game.
Now, when you were speaking with the defendant son in your office, did he have a mask on?
He did.
Okay. Did you have a mask on?
I did.
Could you tell what his demeanor was at that point?
As best as you could, without complete facial expression. You still have tone of voice, you still have pace of speech.
At this point, you never actually interacted with him without a mask. Would that be right?
That is correct.
So, when you asked more pointed questions, tell us what happened next and why.
His demeanor at first was very compliant, and as I started asking about the words and asking him to describe the words, his demeanor shifted towards more of a sad demeanor.
Okay.
He started sharing some things that had gone on in his life.
Like what?
He mentioned that a family dog had died recently. He mentioned that a grandparent had passed. That he was.
I've heard
struggling
Murdaugh
with
was an absolute
COVID
cluster this
and
morning.
With school.
So yeah, we're going to
COVID.
switch over there.
And he mentioned that he had an argument with his parents about grades the night before.
Okay. Did he tell you that a friend of his had abruptly left the state?
He did. He did mention that a friend of his had left. He didn't say the state, just wasn't attending school anymore.
Okay. Now, did you make a decision based upon your conversation with him to call Jennifer Crumbley?
I did.
Okay. Now, is that before or after you saw the original drawing?
I don't remember.
Okay. So during this conversation with the defendant's son, did you have the opportunity to look at the original drawing?
I did receive the original drawing in an email, probably 25 to 30 minutes after retrieving him from class.
So this is Exhibit 74. It's already been admitted. This is the original drawing that was shared with you?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what about this drawing causes you concern as well?
This drawing also gave me a lot of concerns of suicide. When I looked at it and I saw one body, when I looked at it and saw words that were internalized of "the thoughts won't stop, help me," I started becoming concerned about the student's well-being and made the decision that I needed to involve parents.
Okay. So we had talked about checking with the teacher, checking with the student, calling the student in to the office, and a phone call to the parent. Now, you decided to not just call the parent, but also call them in?
I did.
Okay. Now, in the range of options with a counselor dealing with a parent, this is be the highest option. Would that be right?
This would definitely be out there, yes.
Okay. So when was that decision made? How long, let me ask you this, how long were you with the defendant's son before you made that decision to call his mother?
To the best of my memory, at least 20 minutes.
Okay, so in that 20-minute time span, though, you made the decision to bring her in.
I did.
Okay. Tell us how that happened.
I asked, I actually told the student what I was going to do. I said, here's where we're at, and here's what I have to do. And I let him know that in this case, I need to call your parents and get them involved, because I want to make sure we get you help and support.
Okay.
I then gave student the option to choose which parent he wanted me to call. I do that quite frequently because it gives you an insight into the student a little bit. Sometimes they might say, please don't call this parent. And student's response was it would be easier to get a hold of mom. So we called mom.
Okay. Now, did you tell him that you had concerns of suicidal ideation before you called Jennifer Crumbley?
I do not believe that I told him that, no.
And you indicated that you had seen in the fall of 2021 other aspects of suicidal ideation for other students?
Yes,
Okay. And you said even some students had even attempted suicide?
sadly, yes.
Okay. So you've had these sort of meetings where you call a parent in before?
I have.
Okay. And you said it was the defendant's son to call Jennifer Crumbley, or at least you'd have an easier time getting a hold of her?
Yeah, that was the statement. So I called mom, and I
Mom
believe,
being the defendant, Jennifer Crumbley?
yes, that is
Okay.
correct. And she was unable to answer that phone call. So I then asked,
Well, how do you know that? It went to voicemail?
yes,
Okay.
she did not answer that
did not
phone
answer.
call.
Okay.
And so I asked the student if it was okay for me to call his dad, and he said yes. I called dad, and it sounded like there was an answer, but it was also kind of like just dead air on the phone.
Okay.
So I hung up, and a few moments later, I received a phone call back from Jennifer Crumbley.
Okay. Now, if I told you that we had phone logs admitted into evidence that showed you left a message for Jennifer Crumbley at 9:24 a.m., would that sound right to you?
That sounds about right, yes.
Okay. And then it appeared from those same records that she had called you back at 9:27 a.m. Does that also sound right?
That sounds about right.
Okay. Tell us about the conversation between you and Jennifer Crumbley at 9:27 a.m.
I let her know that I had the student in my office and I had some concerns and was hoping that she would be able to come into the school.
Was that on your office line?
It was on my office line, yes.
Did you have the telephone to your ear, or was it speakerphone?
At that point, it was to my ear, and I believe that mom asked to speak with Ethan, or the student. So I then put it on speakerphone and allowed them to talk to each other as well.
Okay. Tell me about that, please.
Mom asked the student what was going on, and he didn't really have much, just kind of.
Okay. Did you tell the defendant that you had a drawing you were going to...
She didn't ignore the phone call. She gave him a call
I
back
believe
3
I
minutes
did,
later. What
yes,
more do you
and
want,
then I
man?
sent it to her.
Okay.
To her.
Give her a
cell phone.
break. I mean, come on.
Did she comment on that drawing, the math worksheet, to you while she was on the phone with you?
Not to my memory.
You indicated to Jennifer Crumbley that you needed her to come into the office. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. Did she say, okay, I'll be right there, or did she say something else?
She was hoping that Dad would be able to do it, that it would be difficult for her to get there to leave work, and that she worked approximately 30 minutes from the school.
Okay. And that was 9:27 a.m. And when she told you that it would be difficult for her to come there, was that on speakerphone?
I do not remember.
Okay. So what was your... In the records, it shows about a 5-minute phone call between you and Jennifer Crumbley at that point in time. Were you left with the impression that she was on her way then, or that you had to find another parent?
I was left with the impression that she was going to try and contact Dad to have Dad come. And then approximately 10 minutes later, she called again saying that she was unable to get a hold of Dad and that she would be on her way.
Okay. She being Jennifer Crumbley.
Yes, that is correct.
All right.
This sounds perfectly
You said you
like
forwarded this Exhibit
normal.
74 to
This
Jennifer
sounds
Crumbley.
very normal.
This was forwarded in the email.
Okay. And then this Exhibit 123 was also forwarded to her.
That was texted to her cell phone.
Texted Jennifer Crumbley's cell phone.
Yes.
All right.
Is this a good or bad time to break?
This would be fun.
Yeah, their lunch is here. So, Mr. Hopkins, you can't discuss your testimony with anyone before you return. Okay? All right? Then you can sit down. Come back at 1 o'clock. Okay?
All right.
Right there, the other one.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right. We need to have a vote. We need to have a vote in chat.
Okay.
All right, we need to have a vote in chat. Now I'm going to create a poll so you don't have to like write what you want in chat. Okay, just letting you know it's okay. You can vote when the thing comes up. But we have one of two options basically here at this point. We can either continue with this, and this is a pretty key witness, incidentally, because he was in the room that day with Ethan. And I imagine the cross-examination of him is going to be quite interesting. And pretty substantive, as to especially because he's a counselor and trained in mental health, and like, well, you couldn't spot it, could you? You didn't know that was going to happen, did you? And so forth and so on, right? So I imagine this is going to be a pretty critical witness, and I imagine that the defense is going to be, it's going to be pretty interesting for the defense for sure. So this is going to be a pretty interesting witness. So we can do that. Or our other option is to switch towards the Murdaugh trial and cover it starting from this morning. So I would start, from this morning and go through. And then try to come back to this at some later point. So that's our twin options. So I will create a poll and we can see what the chat has. This is a non-binding referendum. I am the sovereign and get the right to determine whatever the hell I want, but I'm interested in your views. Should we do this afternoon? So, should we go Murdaugh hearing or more Crumbley? Crumbley from the start? Or more Crumbley? All right, let's see what you guys say. I am, in fact, using your for views. That is true. Amazing. I'm a content creator, and I want to get views and subscribers and revenue. Wow, amazing. Deep. You've learned the secret. You've learned the secret. You don't consent, you're in the chat, so you consent. Lol. So you guys are voting for Crumbley, 65%. Interesting. I'll let it go on a little longer. What do my mods think? Let me go over to Discord, see what the mods have to say in YouTube chat. The word trial is misspelled in my live stream chat, is it? Trial, that's the right spelling of trial. I might have changed it. I was having problems with the title. Let's see. Yeah, I was having some trouble with the title earlier today. Let's see what the YouTube mods chat says. Kurt appears in a video? What? Oh, is this the one where they talk about the thing with the whether or not you can sue YouTube thing? Is this from a while back, 2 years ago? Yeah, I know I was in that video from How to Cook That. Yeah, I knew I was in that video from How to Cook That. That was cool. By the way, Tony, I really did like the thumbnail that you did this morning. It was very good. Showing more of the themes. It was very nice. I appreciate the changes you made. Glock sells horse semen? Do they? Well, things you didn't know. Apparently, Glock sells horse semen. Who knew? I did not know that. Ian might cancel Monday stream. Yeah. 70% of you say Crumbley? Okay, we'll go back to Crumbley. All right. And we'll try to squeeze in Murdaugh this evening. Nobody said Becky had any impact on their decisions? What a shit show, though, right? All right, cool. All right, so I'll go back to changing. I'll go back to changing the title the other way around. Okay, 70% of you say more Crumbley. Cool. I can live with that. Becky can't really plead the fifth, I don't think. I don't think she can plead the fifth, to be honest. She's already given statements under oath. I don't think she can plead the fifth, to be honest. I mean, I have to really look into it, but I have doubts. Okay. And I need to change the thumbnail. Change the thumbnail back to Crumbley. Okay, great. And we're going live at 12 o'clock, so I need to change the time to 12. $12:01. All right, and great. All right, cool. All right, so we have the stream set up for this afternoon, and we'll do that. All right, so I've got 50 minutes for break. Am I doing okay? Yeah, I'm doing fine. Why do you ask? Do I not seem like I'm doing okay? I'm doing fine. I'm doing great. I'm in great spirits. Do I not seem like I'm doing okay? Do I not seem like I'm doing okay? I'm doing great. I'm confused. Am I okay? Sure, I'm okay. Why wouldn't I be okay? I feel good. I feel good. Do 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 do. What did I do now? Do 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 do. I feel good. Do 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 do. Good than I would now. So good, dun dun, so good. I seen you. Do do do. Ooh. Yeah, I'm good, man. You seem tired and tired with people? No, I don't think so. I had a pretty good sleep last night. I went to sleep relatively early, and so I had a nice sleep, and I feel good. And I was a little frustrated with my sound levels a little bit earlier because for some reason I can't quite figure out, I can't get the compressor settings to do what I want, and that's a little annoying because I like my volume to be good. So we've partially solved that problem by just artificially lowering the court volume because we can't get the compressor to duck properly, which is annoying. But we can limit it. So basically we've just limited the court audio to -15, so my voice will more often peek through. But, you know, other than that, I feel good. So a little frustration with audio issues. Other than that, feel great. Yeah. I tell you what, my friends, Vyvanse has just been a wonderful medication for me and my depression. And it's interesting because it's just been so great for me. The last medication I was on that did anything like this was modafinil, a Provigil. Modafinil is the drug that the movie Limitless was based on, I understand. So if you ever saw the movie Limitless or the TV show Limitless, the premise of which, by the way, is this guy takes this uber secret medication that makes him just infinitely smarter and like just improves his cognitive abilities, you know, to the max. And my understanding is that movie was based on the drug Provigil, modafinil, which I've taken, and I have to say, it's not that good. It's not that good. It basically keeps you awake without being a stimulant, which is kind of cool. So it's a non-stimulant medication. I forget exactly how it works, but it just prevents you from feeling sleepy without being stimulating, which is kind of cool. I think, for example, the Air Force uses it for long flights and long things. They use it to keep their pilots awake because it's safer than just keeping them on like amphetamines all the time. And it also has a very high, like LD50. So you can take a shit ton of it without it killing you, which is nice. But even medicinal didn't do this for me. You know, it made me less tired, but it didn't help treat my depression. So it helped deal with some of the tiredness and lethargy, but didn't really help with the underlying depression. But Vyvanse really helps with the depression. So I've been quite pleased at it. And it was interesting because one of my prior doctors put me on Adderall for a while, which is also in the same class of medications. Vyvanse is also is primary. It's off label for depression. It's on label, I think. I don't know that for sure. I think it's off label for depression. I know it's on label for ADHD and it's on label for binge eating disorder. I think it's off label for depression, but it's by far and away the most effective medication I've ever taken for depression. So since I've been on Vyvanse for 2 months, it's been great. Recently, some of you guys might have been with me when we were having trouble getting a renewal on the prescription with that, but fortunately that issue was resolved. Thank God. So I have a new prescription and I have a doctor who will prescribe it to me. So thank God that issue was resolved, because it looked like I might not be able to get the medication for like 3 months. And that's a long ass time. We don't want to press Kurt for 3 months. That isn't good. So, but fortunately, it turned out the doctor I was using in the past actually is on network, despite issues to the contrary. So this doctor I was using was off network last year. And by the way, I have a $255 surprise medical bill. So, because apparently, somehow, a virtual doctor's appointment for the "will you please prescribe me this drug?" Sure, apparently that costs $255. Don't ask me how. It doesn't make sense to me either. But I in large part picked my insurance plan this year in large part to make sure this doctor would be in network. And then it looked like he wasn't going to be in network, and I was really pissed. But now it looks like he is in network again. I hope. So yeah. Anyways, it's been good. How's my appetite been on it? No major change in terms of appetite. But, you know, I'll take anything I can get when it comes to helping to reduce my appetite. So, yeah. So all that's to say I feel great. I'm much easier to take things on the chin than I used to be, which is nice too. I used to overreact. Well, I don't know if overreact is quite the right word. Let's call it overreact so we don't have to overcomplicate this. I used to overreact to any perceived insult to me, and I used to take offense much more easily. So I used to take any perceived slight or any perceived attack much more personally, and I would tend to respond a lot more with anger and defensiveness. And that certainly has been reduced. So it's not that I won't ever do it. Sometimes I still respond defensively or aggressively, but I'm much easier to respond by laughing or taking on the chin, so I'm much less vulnerable, which is nice. My theory of this is fairly simple, by the way. My theory is that the depression, among other things, was just making me more vulnerable, this proverbial eggshell man. You know, I just did not have the emotional capacity to deal with any perceived slight or any perceived attack, and I would take it very defensively because I didn't have the capacity to deal with it. So because the depression has been relieved to some degree, I'm much more able to take things on the chin and laugh at things, and I'm much less likely to blow up at people. It still does happen, but it's less likely, and I'm much more likely to take things on the chin and respond positively. So hey, it's been an overall positive, man. It's great. I need thick skin. Perhaps I do need thick skin, but for better or worse, depression makes it difficult. Or at least it did in my experience. And I don't think, so being depressive and streaming maybe just is not the greatest combination ever, because you're dealing with trolls and making yourself vulnerable to people. So it's like, yes, here I am, a vulnerable person. I'm depressed. I'm emotionally sensitive. So it makes me much more vulnerable to trolls. But talking about law makes me happy. I like talking about the subject matter. So I was like, well, we have to deal with what we can, right? So yeah, I should have a thicker skin perhaps, but I was unable to have a thicker skin in large part because of the depression. But now I'm better. So the skin is getting thicker. It's positive. It's positive. And even when I've been more reactive, I recovered and apologized quicker. That's true, Dave. That's very true. So even where I do overreact, I'm much less likely to downward spiral, which was a thing, right? I would be much more likely to downward spiral, and downward spiraling is much less reduced as well. So even where I do overreact, I'm much more likely to recognize it and correct it and not downward spiral. So basically, this has all been positive. It's all been good. Everything is good. So, yeah. So I'm feeling great. And the trolls can't get to me as much, so I'm much less fun for them. I do think it's interesting how some people really want to kick other people when they're down for their own amusement. I'm not sure why that's a thing, but apparently it is. You're dealing with this person who has depression, who's talked about it openly on his channel, and is like, let me troll this person because I can get under their skin. It's like, I'm emotionally vulnerable, and you're like, let me do it anyway because it's easier to get under their skin and I like the reaction. It's like, why you would purposefully try to make someone's life worse for your amusement doesn't speak very well about your character. It's like, this person's vulnerable, and I'm like, I'm gonna troll him because I can watch him downward spiral and that will amuse me. You're actively attempting to make people's lives worse and actively attempting to make a person more depressed for your own amusement. That is evil. So that's just evil. Why you would do that? Why would you do it just merely for your own amusement? It's not like you had some higher purpose in it. It's not like you were doing it because you had some other reason. You're just doing it merely for your own amusement and pleasure. That's pretty evil. I'm not sure why people are evil. Don't be evil. Don't do that. I really genuinely believe that some of these people were actively trying to get me to self-harm myself in dramatic ways. Why would you actively try to essentially encourage someone to self-delete by creating in them such emotional distress? Why would you do that? That's not good, man. That's not good. It's like, that's pretty evil. That's just pretty evil. Paula says, don't ever do that. Situations aren't permanent. Yes, you're appealing to my rational side. But of course, depression is not rational. And the thoughts you have on depression aren't necessarily rational. And I appreciate your sentiments, but I understand that rationally, but depression isn't rational. So, yeah. I don't have any of those thoughts at the moment. I've never really had any of those thoughts, to be quite honest, but I was definitely getting closer to that territory than I wanted to be. That was sort of one of the things that led me to leaving my job. Was I wasn't at the point where I was like having a plan or anything, but I could see in myself that the probability of me self-deleting was becoming notable, And the fact that it was notable was enough to concern me, right? I'm like, the probability of this is higher than I would like. I don't really have any immediate thoughts of doing this. I don't really have any immediate thoughts of doing this, but I'm feeling like I am closer to that line than I would like to be. So let's leave the job, because this is a major external stress on my life, which was a major external stress and helped substantially. That alone caused my depression to become much, much better. And then the Vyvanse also has been a wonderful thing. Yeah. You found a way to break free. I'm very, very happy you found a way to break free. So, hey, it's a thing, man. It's a thing. But hey, I'm more on the upswing. I'm more on the upswing, and I'm moving to Houston to be closer to Nate the lawyer, so I'll have a closer friend, and hopefully Attorney Tom. We can be closer friends, and new experiences, new adventures. Should be good, man. Should be good. I got better. That's good, right? I got better. And I don't know whether or not a cure is possible or not, but I remain hopeful. So I wouldn't say I'm cured of depression. I wouldn't make that claim. I don't know whether being cured of depression or not is possible. But I'm going to choose to believe it is possible and keep fighting for it, because that seems like a good thing to do. How to manage to get myself onto YouTube during such a vulnerable stage? Because I really, really like talking about law. That's why. I really, really like talking about law. And it made me happy. So it was a necessary thing to do. Yeah, how did I get myself on YouTube at that stage? Because I had to. That's sort of why I did. Because I had to, because it was one of the few things that was making me happy. And so I knew that talking about law made me happy, and I knew I wanted to talk about law, so I turned to YouTube so I could talk about law because it made me happy. I turned to YouTube because I had to. There's your answer to that question. The channel's been much more positive than it used to be. I agree. Ever since I left my job 1.5 years ago, and particularly since I've been on Vyvanse, yeah, things have been a lot better. I went through a mild depressive episode during Christmas because I was feeling lonely, but I imagine a lot of people feel that way during Christmas, because it's hard not to think about everyone else having parties and having family and watching their kids open presents and so forth and so on. It's kind of hard not to have those feelings. So I went through a slight negative depressive episode, or slight negative depressive, what would you say? Period. How about that? Just went through a negative period, and but fortunately that's over now, and so I feel better. Yeah. It was my job. It wasn't my coworkers. It was my job. It was just my job. Did I go see my parents for the holidays? I saw them for Thanksgiving. Probably should have gone see them for Christmas too, but I didn't. So we cooked together. That was fun. Yeah. It was the job. There was nothing inherently wrong with my job, by the way. So it's not a slam at the job. It just was not interesting for me. My job was in the prosecution side of patents. So I'm a paper lawyer, right? So I don't go to court. There's a lot of lawyers who don't go to court, right? So because they, there's a lot of they're transactional lawyers. They do things on paper. Ideally to try to keep you out of court in the first place. All right. So I'm a transactional lawyer. So I'm in patents. So what I do is, or what I did was what I did is in the prosecution of patents. So it is about the analysis and review of patents with an eye towards prior art and an eye towards any issues that might prevent it from becoming a patent. So I was in that sort of vein of it, trying to analyze things to see how it could be prevented from becoming a patent, and seeing ways to potentially overcome that. The job is very isolating in its nature, or at least my experience of it. I can't speak to everyone's experience of it, but the job was very isolating. I was basically left alone. I was left on my own, which is great in some ways, right? Just go do your job and go over there and do your thing and, do it. So, I didn't really have coworkers in any sort of meaningful sense. I had people who were doing the same job as me, but we didn't interact with each other. I was independent. And they were independent too, right? They didn't really interact with other people because that was sort of how we rolled. And the job became very trite and very mechanical. And it became very bureaucratic and just very samey. And as a patent lawyer, I hyper specialized, which is very typical for patent lawyers. It's not all the time, but it definitely does happen because you become better and better at a thing, and then you become more valuable at the thing. So it becomes almost like a PhD in some respects, right? You start out broader, and you get more narrow and more narrow and more narrow until eventually you become an expert in one thing. So essentially, I for lack of a better description, was a PhD in my specific thing of computer databases and search engines. I was really, really good at it. But it was also really, really narrow. And I essentially got to the point where I essentially knew everything. And I don't say that to be, arrogant. It got to the point where everything was just variations on a theme. It's like everything is just a variant of thing I've seen before. It's just a different combination of the same thing, right? So there's nothing new here for me. I mean, in some ways it's new because every combination's unique, but I recognize all the parts and it's no longer interesting. So I got to the point where I kind of knew everything and there was nothing new for me to learn, and it became very boring and very trite and very mechanical and very samey. It's like every day was exactly the same. Every day was exactly the same. I come in, I do the thing, I punch out. I go to the assembly line, and I go to my station and I do it, and then I leave. And yeah. So it became soul crushing, and I needed to leave. So yeah. So if I ever go back into it, I'm going to need to do some sort of different environment or something. I don't know. There was nothing wrong with my bosses. My bosses were great. I mean, we had our conflicts to be sure, but nothing major. I mean, sometimes they disagree with me and overrule me, but not often. And for the most part, it was a good paying job. It was very flexible in its hours too, because patent law is on paper, so you don't need to revolve around courts. You don't need to revolve around, being at a particular place at a particular time. You just need to get filed. You need to get things filed or done by particular dates. And you could stretch that sometimes to play around with deadlines a little bit. So it was a very flexible job. It's very flexible in its hours, had great benefits. It was well paying. My pay has decreased by 4-fold. So I'm making like 25% of what I used to make. But it's better. It's better. Yeah, every day is kind of like Groundhog Day. Kind of, sort of, yeah. Kind of, sort of, yeah. So either if I'm going to go back into that, which I'm an expert at, so I could probably get hired at like $150,000 without breaking a sweat, I'd imagine, and possibly more. So I could get paid really, really well by going back into what I'm doing, or did, but I'd have to do something different. So I'd have to go about it differently or do a different aspect of the job. Because there are different ways to go about it. I could actually be involved in the creation of patents, maybe, which wasn't what I was doing, right? I didn't create them. I was essentially kind of like a fixer, or I don't know if that's the right way to look at it, but yeah, I would inherit other people's work and try to deal with it. But yeah. So if I either go back into it, maybe I could do in the creation of the thing. I mean, patent lawyers are very hard to find. They're very rare, so they're very well paid. Or I need to find some other field of law I can go into. Can I do consulting? Yeah, maybe. Maybe I could do some current consulting. Not the worst idea I've ever heard. All right. Am I happier now? Of course I'm happier now. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I've been talking about for the last 20 minutes. Of course I'm happier now. That's the whole point of this discussion. I'm much happier now. I'm much happier now. If I'm unhappy, sometimes it's because I don't have enough to do. And I guess I'm also unhappy in so much as I'm not getting the results I want. So I suppose I'm unhappy in those ways because, well, I'd really like to make a good income again. And I'd like to have more money so that I can do more things. It's amazing how much money I used to piss away, though. It's amazing how your lifestyle really does match your income, because I've just changed my lifestyle and I haven't really felt it. And it's amazing. So where did all that money go when I was making like $130,000 a year? Where did all that money go? You know, where did all the money go? You know, so it's like, you know, where did the $1.5 million I made, you know, over 10 years, where did all that money go? You know, especially since I didn't have a house and stuff. I was like, where did all that money go? Oh, well, what can you do? All right, I'm going to sign off because I have a half hour and I need to have some lunch. I've enjoyed our discussion, though. We'll be back on a half hour and we'll be back with more Crumbley. Should be an interesting afternoon. And now that I also have Vyvanse, maybe the job won't be as bad. There's also that too. Maybe because I have Vyvanse now, maybe it'll be all better. Maybe. Who knows? And I've had a 1.5 year hiatus, so maybe if I go back into it, maybe it won't be so bad. I had an extended sabbatical. Maybe I'm ready to go back into it. I don't know. I've been Uncivil Law. Until later, my friends, I hope all is well. Cheers, my friends, and goodbye.